Moments later, he wakes up with a splitting headache, thinking he still has work to finish. When he looks at his reflection, he freezes. That face isn't his. He looks up and sees a massive white tree floating in the sky. At that point, he knows something is seriously wrong. A mysterious being appears and congratulates him for the summoning, granting him exactly 3 wishes. Panic kicks in, but then realization hits. He's in another world. Thinking he's the protagonist of some isekai story with a cheat item, he gets bold. If he only has 3 wishes, then the first one should be asking for 10. Big brain move, at least in his head. The floating book gets excited. It immediately senses that this soul isn't the original owner of the body. Then it reveals its true form, a grotesque demon who casually explains that it devoured the original soul. Zhou realizes he landed in the wrong world and the wrong body. When he tries to back out, the demon snaps its fingers and sets his body on fire. Even thinking about breaking the contract triggers endless punishment. His screams echo through the streets, while the demon decides he's as pathetic as expected. It's ready to end everything right there. But Zhou, with his corporate background mindset, finds a loophole. He argues that it doesn't count as breaching the contract if the demon's punishment makes it impossible for him to fulfill his side. The demon pauses. Intrigued, Zhou even claims that if forceful possession were possible, it would have already happened. He insists this was just a test of willpower, and he passed. The demon bursts into laughter. It admits no human has ever tried to negotiate like this before, so it offers a new deal. If Dao Chen fulfills just 1 wish, he gets a complete fresh start. However, the demon immediately uses the first wish for itself, demanding 1,000 additional wishes. It reminds him that he's practically dead anyway. With no real choice, Zhou agrees. He signs the contract with his own soul on the line and seals the pact. The next morning, he reaches his rundown apartment looking like someone who got mauled all night. The demon is gone, leaving him alone to deal with this new reality. Inside, he finds a debt note signed in blood. The situation at home is worse than he imagined. Suddenly, a voice shouts from behind him, and a metal bat smashes into the back of his head. The intruder yells about ignored calls, while his partner warns him not to kill the kid. One of them mentions that the boy might be dangerous because he's an oracle. Confused and furious, Zhou demands to know who they are. The answer comes as a brutal kick to his chest. The blonde thug demands to know where his mother is, and starts trashing her, saying she works herself to death, paying off her deadbeat son's debts. He calls her useless, and says both mother and son are a waste of oxygen. The insults hit deep. Zhou remembers being a child, telling his mom he didn't want to be a loser anymore. He once had a nightmare where she died from exhaustion trying to support him. Back then, he asked what would happen if he never awakened as an oracle. She simply told him not to worry, that even if the world collapsed, she would always stand by his side. She told him to believe in himself. Back in the present, something snaps. Zhou rises and throws a lightning-fast punch straight into the blonde thug's face. The impact sends him flying. When the dust settles, his face is completely ruined beyond recognition. The other two stare at Zichen, sensing the sudden shift in his aura. It's like he just had a breakthrough in real time. With the coldest look yet, he tells them to shut their filthy mouths. Still, the thugs decide it's time to teach the E-rank brat a lesson. If they have to break a leg or two to put him in his place, so be it. Zhou quickly realizes they're talking about his power level, and figures they're probably ranked higher anyway. One of them swings a metal pipe straight down at his head, but to him it moves in slow motion. He casually steps aside and reappears behind the big gorilla-looking thug, landing a clean knee to the guy's face and sending him flying across the room like he weighs nothing. The second thug rushes in from behind, thinking there's no way an E-rank should be that agile. He aims straight for Zhou ribs, confident the kid can't see him coming. In the next second, a savage roundhouse kick caves in his ribcage instead, and he gets launched away like last night's trash, completely unable to process what just happened. Terrified, the thug starts begging for mercy, swearing they only came on Lin Yu's orders to collect the loan money. Hearing that, Zhou calmly tells them to inform their boss that the money will come in due time, so he better chill and stay out of his life. The two goons shudder at his cold tone, and rush out the front door without daring to look back. Once it's quiet, Zhou asks if the demon is still there. Goldfinger is genuinely surprised the amateur managed to sense his presence, but Zhou explains he felt the power surging through his body. The demon tells him to be grateful for the help, and Zhou excited, starts calling him boss, and says that with that kind of power, he doesn't have to fear anyone. That instantly irritates Goldfinger, who reminds him that a mere mortal shouldn't casually think about wielding power that could erase him if he exceeds the limit. Zhou asks how the boss expects to grant wishes if he's too weak to handle the strength, and the demon replies that he'll grow stronger through rewards, but for now he must forget about using that power recklessly. Disappointed but listening, Zhou holds back, while Goldfinger secretly finds it insane how naturally he handled the power earlier. It even makes him wonder if Zhou might somehow be connected to a fated partner from long ago, though he keeps that thought to himself. When Zhou asks about his second wish and what he should do next, the demon casually tells him to forget about it for now and just live however he wants. That doesn't help much, and Zhou sighs, realizing he knows almost nothing about this new world and that this body might not be as reliable as he hoped. He grabs one of the thug's phones to try to understand what kind of life he had gotten himself into, and immediately notices there are no calls or messages from his family. But when he opens a text from his sister, he freezes, because she had begged him to come quickly, since their mother had fallen into a coma. At the hospital, Zhou throws the door door open in suspense and sees a girl who must be his sister hunched over in front of their mother's bed. The atmosphere is painfully tense, which makes sense since he ignored her before, and when he looks at the woman lying there, her condition is far worse than the warm image he had in memory. With guilt on his face, he apologizes for being late and asks how their mother is doing, but his sister smiles in pure anger and mocks him, listing all the lame excuses he used in the past about training and summoning demons. She suddenly explodes, saying their mom collapsed from exhaustion, trying to pay off his debts, and nearly died because there wasn't enough money left for hospital bills. After venting everything she held inside, she hands him a card covering 6 months of his expenses and calmly says she'll take care of their mother alone from now on. When he asks what that means, she tells him without hesitation that he's dead to her, and that sentence hits harder than any punch he took earlier. Outside the hospital, Goldfinger senses his dark emotions and asks why a human girl's words hurt him so much. The demon reminds him he wasn't the one who caused this, but Zhou Chen remembers his own pathetic past and how he once made similar mistakes, which makes the boss laugh and tell him not to let emotions delay their plan. When Zhou Chen asks if getting stronger will solve everything, Goldfinger confirms that once he proves he has what it takes, all obstacles will disappear. That's enough motivation, and he fully commits to starting his training arc without hesitation. Meanwhile, at a nightclub, Lin Yu orders his secretary to get their team moving faster because customers won't wait forever. The secretary reports that a student beat up 3 of their men, and Lin Yu immediately remembers his subordinates tried to collect before the deadline and damaged his reputation. The real problem, however, is that the student defeated guys ranked higher than him, which shouldn't be possible no matter how skilled someone is. Lin Yu grabs the report with Zhou Chen's profile and concludes the boy is hiding far more strength than he lets on, so he orders his secretary to keep close tabs on him. Back outside, Zhou Chen goes for a morning jog, and a friendly neighbor offers him a good deal on supplements, but he says he'll come back later. Seeing how energetic he looks, the old man jokes that maybe he got a girlfriend, not knowing Zhou Chen has just been adjusting to his body and grinding non-stop to get stronger. While researching, he learns that people with abilities are called oracles, and that Zhou Chen sank into massive debt because strength-enhancing supplements cost a fortune. Even so, after just a few days of brutal training and some drugs, he's already getting noticeably stronger and isn't sure where his limit even is. Right as he's thinking about that, his phone rings, and when he answers, an angry voice yells that he completely forgot to return, like their teacher instructed. Hearing that, Zhou Chen suddenly remembers he ghosted them without a word. The next day at school, Zhou Chen learns how the ranking system actually works. There are 6 ranks from A down to E, and you have to max out your current rank before even thinking about moving up, which takes insane effort. Because the gap between ranks is monstrous, society is split into 5 layers, with E ranks and regular nobodies stuck in the outer zones, while D rank and above live in the inner layers like VIPs. Realizing he's basically bottom-tier trash in this system, Zhou Chen decides he needs to climb fast and break into the middle layers as soon as possible. Right as he's thinking that, some Neanderthal flicks a booger at the back of his head and laughs in his face. The guy's buddy jokes that even though they're level 1 oracles like him, they could still beat him up because he looks that weak. Annoyed that monkeys like this still exist, Zhou Chen is about to respond when the teacher walks in and class starts. Later outside, while stretching, he actually thinks school life isn't going too badly. That piece lasts about 5 seconds before someone calls him out from behind. A few minutes later, Booger Guy is shocked to see Zhou Chen squaring up against the strongest guy in class. His friend isn't surprised at all, since he's used to seeing Zhou Chen get into fights. The bully smirks and says he's gotten too cocky just because he scores well on written exams, reminding him that an oracle's true value comes from strength, and his level 1 power is garbage. Without missing a beat, Zhou Chen points out that the bully is also level 1 trash. That instantly sets him off, and he throws a violent hook. Zhou Chen catches the fist with one hand, twists the wrist with the other, and calmly asks if he's done yapping. The bully can't believe he's being overpowered, and even wonders if Zhou Chen somehow got taller. Zhou Chen throws the guy's own words back at him, saying strength is everything, then politely asks for permission to smash his face in. The bully starts sweating, fully expecting to get wrecked. Right then, Coach Thian Zai shows up, furious, demanding to know if Zhou Chen plans to cause trouble the moment he comes back. Putting on the most innocent face possible, Zhou Chen claims they were just playing around. The bully jerks his hand free, and with things cooling down, the coach gives a final warning and orders everyone to line up for testing. Soon, the students gather around the pull-up bar while Thian Zi starts hyping them up about the upcoming inter-school tournament. He promises that strong results will bring glory and open doors to elite academies, then shamelessly plugs his miracle supplements like a full-time salesman. The bully steps up first and cranks out 50 pull-ups in one go. Zhou Chen watches, unimpressed, muttering that this feels more like a TikTok challenge than a real test. Right then, the class representative approaches him, asking if he's okay, since he ignored her messages for days. She awkwardly claims she was just curious, but Zhou Chen reassures her nothing happened. Changing the topic, she asks why he refuses to buy the teacher's supplements. He bluntly answers that he's broke. She tries to warn him about the consequences, but her name gets called before she can finish. She manages only 25 pull-ups before dropping, yet Coach Thian Zi, remembering she bought 2 bottles, magically bumps her score to 35. That's when it clicks clicks for Zhou Chen. The overpriced junk isn't about strength, it's about survival. If you don't buy, you risk getting pushed out. Finally, Zhou Chen steps up to the bar. The coach narrows his eyes, fully aware he never bought a single bottle. A twisted smile creeps across his face as he decides to make an example out of him. As Zhou Chen grips the bar, he immediately feels something off. His body becomes heavier, and he realizes the crystals embedded in the wrist guards are secretly adding weight. Even so, he refuses to give in, figuring there must be a limit to how much they can handle. He starts pumping out reps smoothly. The class stares in disbelief as the so-called weakling surpasses everyone with ease. When he blasts past 100 pull-ups, the students lose their minds, shouting that he must be at least second tier. After he drops from the bar, a crowd surrounds him, firing off endless questions. Meanwhile, Coach Tianzi stands frozen, wondering if the boy secretly used enhancers. Fear creeps in as he realizes students might not need his shady supplements anymore. A devilish smile slowly spreads across his face as he starts cooking up a nasty plan. Elsewhere, the principal is yelling into the phone about second-tier events being cancelled. He argues the school is underfunded and barely survives with third-tier students. The voice on the other end bluntly explains that funding is reserved for elite oracles, which is why top schools get all the money. Slamming the phone down, the principal facepalms in frustration. Knowing they don't have the resources to produce even one elite oracle, his gaze drifts to a black crystal locked inside a glass case, as he desperately thinks of a way to keep the school afloat. His thoughts are interrupted when Coach Tianzi calls from outside. The coach walks in confidently and places a list of names on the desk, claiming these students are future elites. The principal scans it and immediately notices they're barely first tier, yet the coach is selling them like prodigies. Then Tianzi casually adds that there is one student completely unfit to become an oracle. The principal takes the bait and asks who it is. At that exact moment, the story shifts back to Zhou Chen, walking toward the principal's office with Goldfinger floating beside him. The cursed book asks what he did this time, but Zhou Chen stays silent, already sensing trouble ahead. Standing outside the office, Zhou Chen remembers all the nasty rumors about the headmaster and already feels like this meeting won't end well. He's about to grab the door handle when flames suddenly burst into existence right in front of him, catching him completely off guard and almost making him stumble back. Inside his head, Goldfinger lights up in excitement, saying the triggered wish he mentioned earlier has finally appeared, and ordering Zhou Chen to grab the object immediately. Zhou Chen complains about the horrible timing, but before he can think it through, the principal's voice cuts in from inside, telling him to stop wasting time and come in. He steps into the office and politely asks why he was called. The principal flips through his school record and calmly asks what it takes to become an oracle, then answers his own question without waiting. It all comes down to money. He bluntly tells Zhou Chen to quit now, while he's still ahead, explaining that developing an oracle costs way too much, and a broke kid like him won't survive in the long run. In his head, he thinks it's better to cut losses early, and he even says he's willing to return the tuition fee. While Zhou Chen is still processing that, Goldfinger's eye widens as he suddenly realizes the black crystal displayed in the office is the mission object. He urgently tells Zhou Chen to grab it, but Zhou Chen whispers back that the demon should take it himself. Goldfinger immediately reminds him that he needs a human to act on his behalf. Zhou Chen pauses, thinking fast, knowing that if he gets expelled now, his plan to reach the mid-city zone is finished before it even starts. He quickly recalls that not a single student from this academy has ever gone beyond E2 level, which is exactly why even small breakthroughs are treated like gold here. Then he asks Goldfinger if he can decide the reward for completing this mission. At that moment, the demon realizes what he's planning, but before he can argue, Zhou Chen cuts him off and declares that he wants the borrow power skill. Goldfinger explodes, shouting that the choice is insane and extremely dangerous, warning that overusing it could easily kill him, but Zhou Chen stays locked in and argues that if he ends up expelled, the demon's wish might never come true, so trusting him is the only option. After a tense moment, Goldfinger reluctantly agrees, saying whatever happens next won't be his responsibility. A glowing panel appears in front of Zhou Chen, asking if he wants to accept the borrow power skill, and he agrees without hesitation. The principal interrupts and asks if he has any final words before the decision is made. Zhou Chen firmly replies that he wants his level reassessed first. The principal sighs at what sounds like a hopeless request, but extends his hand anyway. When they make contact, he notices Zhou Chen's strength is higher than the records show, but still not enough to justify keeping him enrolled. Closing his eyes, Zhou Chen realizes this is his last chance, and desperately absorbs as much star energy as he can. Suddenly, a powerful aura bursts out from his body, shocking the principal. Even Goldfinger is caught off guard, because the energy now flowing through Zhou Chen is stronger than the power he lent him. The principal staggers back, realizing Zhou Chen just broke through and reached level 4 on the spot. Grinding his teeth, the principal regains his composure and instantly changes his tone, telling Zhou Chen to participate in the upcoming school tournament. Zhou Chen blinks, confused by the sudden shift, but quickly pieces it together. The school is underfunded, and the principal wants to use him as proof that the academy can still produce talent. The principal admits he was planning to weed out weaker students to save money, and apologizes for dragging Zhou Chen into the mess. As compensation, he grants him a full scholarship and 6 bottles of supplements every week, saying directly that the academy's future now depends on him. Sensing just how desperate the man is, Zhou Chen takes his shot and asks for the black crystal on the shelf. The principal explains it was carved from a black star crystal brought back by the previous headmaster, and that it represents the school's faith and pride. After a long sigh, he admits that if the school collapses, the symbol won't mean anything anyway, so he agrees to hand it over. Zhou Chen confidently promises to give everything he has to win the tournament. When asked how he suddenly became so strong, Zhou Chen casually says he had been hiding his strength the entire time. The principal nearly chokes, thinking masking a level is some ultimate high-level move, and swears he won't tell anyone. A female teacher then enters the office, and the principal instructs her to escort Zhou Chen to the elite class. As they walk, she explains that the entire second floor is reserved exclusively for elite students. She casually asks what kind of connection he has with the principal, but Zhou Chen brushes it off without revealing anything. Right then, Coach Tianji storms in at full speed, apologizing and saying he begged the headmaster to reconsider the decision. The female teacher cuts him off, clarifying that Zhou Chen isn't being expelled at all, and is actually being transferred to the elite class. She adds that the principal is now looking for him, and the color drains from Tianji's face instantly. Later that night, Zhou Chen drags himself back to his tiny apartment and collapses onto the bed. Staring at the ceiling, he mutters how a broke kid like him is supposed to maintain level 4 in such a short time. Goldfinger immediately reminds him about the mission, and warns that borrowed power won't trick people forever. Zhou Chen admits he already figured that much, but at least he secured free supplements and avoided expulsion, so things could be worse. Then he looks at his phone, and remembers the real problem is still the mountain of debt hanging over him. If he doesn't come up with a money-making plan soon, all of this strength won't mean much. The next day at school, he looks more depressed than ever. Looking around at the dusty, rundown hallway, Zhou Chen wonders what kind of dump he just walked into. The walls look abandoned, like nobody's been there in years. Out of nowhere, someone calls his name, and a man waves at him from a distance with a huge friendly smile, telling him to come over. They start talking, and the man apologizes for not finding him sooner, since he's always buried in class duties. He introduces himself as Teacher Zhang, and Zhou Chen immediately asks if he's really the only teacher here. Zhang scratches his head and admits the school hasn't been doing great lately, so he's the only one assigned to the advanced class. He explains that they use the innermost section for training, which is why the outer halls are just collecting dust. When he pushes open the door, he reassures Zhou Chen not to worry, and says the facilities are still top-notch. He even promises things won't ever be boring. The moment Zhou Chen steps inside, he just stares. The interior is completely different from the outside. It looks like a world-class gym, almost like a 5-star fitness club packed with energetic students. Teacher Zhang explains that everyone is doing self-training, and offers to introduce him. While Zhou Chen looks around impressed, he notices a few students throwing side glances at him, clearly curious. The teacher calls everyone over and introduces the newcomer. Zhou Chen bows politely and greets them respectfully, but a red-haired guy at the back crosses his arms with a smirk and immediately starts trouble. He mocks Zhou Chen, telling him to stop pretending and admit he used connections to get into the elite class. Teacher Zhang snaps at him, telling him to behave and explaining that Zhou Chen transferred purely based on skill. The redhead clearly isn't convinced. He narrows his eyes like he just found easy prey, and suddenly challenges Zhou Chen to a fight. The students instantly light up, excited because they haven't seen a duel in ages, and rumors start spreading fast. A blonde student at the back asks what's going on, and a pink-haired girl explains that a fight is about to break out. That immediately catches his interest, and he starts asking about this so-called transfer student. Back in the center, Teacher Zhang quietly advises Zhou Chen to refuse the challenge, but Zhou Chen accepts without hesitation. He calmly adds that he's fine with the match, as long as lethal force is off the table. Meanwhile, in the school office, the principal is nearly losing it, asking if the new kid is already picking fights. On the phone, the teacher explains that Zhou Chen accepted Wenhao's challenge. Neither side backs down. They face each other, building up intense aura. The principal finds it strange, but assumes Zhou Chen just wants to test his level, so he approves the duel in the arena. Later, both students stand behind separate desks while Teacher Zhang explains the rules. No outside interference, and both fighters must compete at the same star level. Some students struggle to believe Zhou Chen is really an E rank like Wenhao. The teacher strongly reminds them that striking vital points is absolutely forbidden. He repeats that lethal force is not allowed under any circumstances, and whoever loses cannot retaliate afterward. A clean strike to the face or surrender will end the duel immediately. With a wave of his hand, the fight begins. Wenhao charges straight at Zhou Chen, aiming for his neck without hesitation. Zhou Chen doesn't even flinch. He catches the arm smoothly, throwing the redhead off balance. Realizing this won't be easy, Wenhao unleashes a barrage of relentless strikes, but Zhou Chen dodges each one calmly, slipping past them with precise movements. Frustrated, Wenhao shifts tactics and throws a kick. His leg twists midair as he unleashes his signature move, the wind hook kick. Zhou Chen blocks with his arm, and the redhead grins, thinking he secured the win. But from that same position, Zhou Chen suddenly fires a sharp kick toward Wenhao's neck. The redhead barely recovers, shocked that this guy even knows martial arts. He stabilizes himself, deciding the only thing that matters now is protecting his face. Just as he turns back around, Zhou Chen calmly taps him on the nose with a closed fist. With a small smirk, he asks if that counts as victory. The arena falls silent for a moment, until Teacher Zhang officially declares Zhou Chen the winner. Wenhao stands there frozen, unable to believe he actually lost. The other students are just as stunned. They start whispering that the transfer student is way stronger than expected. Meanwhile, Zhou Chen feels the match ended too quickly, but at least he learned something from it. He asks Wenhao if he has any complaints now. Watching everything, Coach Tianzi can't believe what he just saw. Wenhao is an elite who's had professional training, yet he lost to someone who only just joined the class. He realizes this must be why the principal told him to give the kids special treatment. Suddenly, the principal himself appears and congratulates Zhou Chen, telling him to follow because they need to talk. The pink-haired girl looks shocked at the sight, while the blonde guy says they definitely need someone like him in their crew. The principal asks Zhou Chen if he likes the elite class. He replies honestly that aside from the students being overly enthusiastic, there's nothing that's special about it. The principal chuckles and says he'll get used to it because strong people always attract attention. He advises him to focus on training and promises the school will do everything possible to support him. Hearing that, Zhou Chen feels the principal finally trusts him, so he takes the chance and asks if there's any way for students to make money fast. The principal immediately tells him to focus on training instead, saying that long-term strength will bring bigger rewards. He even offers financial help if his family is struggling. Zhou Chen quickly says it's nothing like that, but inside he knows he'll have to find another way to make money. Later, while training alone in the gym, he reminds himself to be careful. The school has very strict policies against student loans, and he can't afford another financial disaster. While training, Zhou Chen keeps thinking about one thing: where the hell can he make some extra money fast? He's still deep in debt, and strength alone won't pay the bills. Out of nowhere, the yellow-haired guy appears in front of him and casually compliments him on the match. He asks who Zhou Chen even is, and Zhou Chen immediately throws the same question back at him. The pink-haired girl sighs and tells the yellow-haired guy Shen that he's being rude again. She apologizes to Zhou Chen and introduces herself as Shaosha, saying the annoying guy next to her is Shen. She explains that both of them are his seniors and can help him if he's confused about anything. Shen suddenly declares that from now on they're a team, and since he's obviously the leader, he'll personally take care of Zhou Chen. Then he asks about the combat technique he used against Wenhao. Zhou Chen honestly says he doesn't know any combat techniques at all. Shen is shocked when he hears that the move was just a reflex. He laughs and says Wenhao is going to be furious if he finds out. Shaksha steps in and explains properly. Combat techniques are special super moves learned from scrolls or memory stones. The more mastery you have, the stronger they become. There are different ranks, and strong fighters build their entire style around combining these techniques. Shen adds that Wenhao used a D-rank combat technique called the hook wind kick. Hearing that, Zhou Chen realizes that's why the kick felt so heavy and hard to block. If he had one of those techniques, his chances of winning would be even higher. He asks if they're rare. Shen explains that rarity depends on rank. The school teaches basic ones, but powerful techniques can only be obtained by buying them or having someone share them, and they're expensive. In today's market, even a basic D-rank technique costs around 500,000. Both Shen and Xiaosha proudly say they each have one and can show him if he wants. Zhou Chen immediately thinks these two must be loaded if that kind of money is nothing to them. Then it hits him. He can just ask them how to make money fast. He quickly says he needs around 300,000, but doesn't want to do anything illegal like robbing a bank. Shen casually says the only real fast money option is the Blackwater district. Shaksha instantly shuts that down, telling him not to talk nonsense because the school strictly forbids students from going there. Still, Shen mutters that anything can happen in Blackwater. Both of them check their accounts when Zhou Chen asks for help, but they're completely broke. Even so, Zhou Chen decides he'll check out the Blackwater district after school. He really needs the money. Using the map, he realizes it's actually close to his home. He changes out of his uniform so no one will recognize him as a student. He even asks Goldfinger what he thinks about this move, but the demon stays silent. From what he's heard, the outer zones don't have strong fighters. His power is equal to a level 4 oracle now, so he figures he can handle himself, and if things go south, he can always run. After walking around, he notices the area looks abandoned. It doesn't seem like some miracle zone at first, but faint footprints on the ground lead toward a hidden pathway. Following it carefully, he finally reaches the real miracle zone inside Blackwater. The place is dirty, chaotic, and full of shady deals. He quickly understands why nobody talks about it. There are no real laws here. Anything goes as long as it makes money. For a moment, he feels hopeful. Maybe he really can make enough to clear his debt here. Then he suddenly calls out to the goons stalking him, asking how long they plan to follow him. One of them laughs and compliments his sharp instincts. He says he was waiting for the perfect moment to strike, but now he'll just beat him down in front of everyone. The guy claims he's seen plenty of rich kids come here in disguise and end up as easy prey. Zhou Chen almost laughs because he's completely broke. The goon warns that since he's an oracle, running would be useless. If he wants to live, he should empty his pockets and follow orders. Zhou Chen calmly says he's pretty rude. Then with a single clean strike, he knocks the leader out cold. The other two get furious and rush at him with knives. Before they can reach him, wooden crates suddenly fall on top of them. A mysterious girl grabs Zhou Chen's hand and tells him to run. They both dash away and reach a hidden safe spot. He thanks her, though honestly it's a bit annoying because he planned to question those guys. The girl acts like she already knows him and asks what he's doing here. Then she suddenly panics, saying she needs to stay low. When Zhou Chen asks if they've met before, she quickly changes the topic and says she just read his name on his collar. He looks down and realizes his name tag is still there. He immediately rips it off. He thinks it's lucky she doesn't actually know him. him. He never even noticed his name was written on his collar the whole time. He thanks her for pointing it out, while she quietly feels relieved she didn't expose her real identity. She warns him to hide his information better because this area is dangerous. Then she offers to get him out of Blackwater, but Zhou Chen refuses. He didn't come here to sightsee. He came here to make money. Zhou Chen decides it's better to walk away. If that girl finds out he's a student from the academy, he's in serious trouble. As he leaves, she watches him carefully, thinking she definitely knows who he is. When she touched him earlier, she felt something strange, almost like confirmation that he has already awakened as an oracle, and she can't understand what a student is doing in the miracle zone. Meanwhile, Zhou Chen buys a simple mask to hide his face, so no one can recognize him. He's still thinking about how he hasn't found a single decent way to make money when a stranger suddenly approaches him. The man introduces himself as a local tour guide and says he can answer any questions. That immediately catches Zhou Chen's attention. He asks straight up if there's a place where he can make quick cash. The guide smiles widely, clearly happy to gain another headcount, and proudly tells him to follow. The man leads him to a noisy underground arena. When Zhou Chen asks if this is some kind of fight club, the guide confirms it and says this is the fastest way to earn money in Blackwater. He explains that today's winner will get prize money plus a cut from all the bets placed. Even oracles participate, so it's high risk and high reward. After watching the current fight for a moment, Zhou Chen feels confident he can win. The guide offers to arrange betting chips if he wants to participate, and Zhou Chen says he'll take his shot at the prize money anyway. At the same time, the mysterious girl also enters the fight club and begins searching for him. When she spots Zhou Chen inside the ring, she freezes, wondering what he's doing there. The first opponent acts arrogant, bragging that he's a seated fighter. Zhou Chen knocks him out with a single clean strike. The crowd immediately starts booing because every fight is ending in one punch. Without wasting time, Zhou Chen drops the next two fighters just as easily. He wants to end this fast and collect the money. Watching from above, the club boss gets confused because he only allowed this masked guy to fight, since he looked weak. One of his lackeys reports that the remaining fighters have forfeited, and customers are demanding refunds, saying the matches look staged. The boss instantly orders a special match because he has no intention of letting Zhou Chen walk away with the prize money. After knocking down the last regular opponent, Zhou Chen calmly asks if he can get his reward. Instead, the announcer declares that a special match has been arranged for the crowd's excitement. That's when Zhou Chen realizes they never planned to pay him fairly. The lackeys roll out a trolley with something chained to it. The announcer introduces the opponent as the Yahello, also called the Freak. When they unbuckle it, the creature drops to the ground like a corpse, and the staff quickly fly the ring and lock it. Suddenly, the Freak opens its eyes. The look on its face is pure menace. In the crowd, a fat guy pretends to be brave in front of his girlfriend, claiming he could beat it in one punch, but he clearly looks terrified. The mysterious girl watches nervously, knowing Zhou Chen can't handle something like this easily. She could step in with her abilities, but that would expose her identity and ruin her plans. Inside the ring, Zhou Chen immediately feels the danger. When their eyes meet, it feels like he's prey, and the monster is the hunter. Every instinct in his body tells him to run. The Freak suddenly dashes forward to land a lethal strike. Zhou Chen barely dodges in time. Realizing he would have died if he reacted a second slower, he understands this isn't like the earlier fights, and decides he has to get serious. The monster corners him, and Zhou Chen knows he has to finish this quickly. He borrows strength, raises his level, and slams the Freak into the ground with a powerful punch. For a second it lies still, and he thinks it's over, but the creature suddenly attacks again, and he barely escapes. Shock hits him because his strongest attack had almost no effect. He quickly creates distance, knowing close combat could get him killed. He dashes around the arena, avoiding strike after strike while searching for something he can use as a weapon. He manages to break one of the Freak's claws, and uses it like a dagger to slash its neck. The cut isn't deep enough to kill it, but now the fight feels more even. Zhou Chen knows he's physically stronger, so if he can get close one more time, he can finish it. As he rushes forward, the monster suddenly releases a strange gas that turns out to be steam, filling the arena with thick fog. Using the fog as cover, the Freak attacks from different directions. Zhou Chen can't see anything, and the monster is trying to wear him down. He realizes that if this drags on, he'll die, so he forces himself to calm down and rely on his other senses instead of sight. Listening carefully and tracking the slightest movements, he finally locks onto the monster's location. He grabs its arm and slices it clean off, creating the opening he desperately needed. He prepares to deliver the final blow, but suddenly his heart starts hurting. The borrowed power is reaching its limit. The Freak takes advantage of the moment, knocking the claw weapon from his hand and lashing out with its tongue to deliver a lethal strike. Even then, Zhou Chen refuses to give up. He pushes past his limits once more, borrows strength again, grabs the monster's tongue mid-attack, swings its entire body into the air, and clamps both hands onto its jaws. With both hands locked onto the Freak's jaws, Zhou Chen roars and uses every last bit of borrowed strength. Muscles strain, veins pop, and with a brutal tear, he rips the monster open and finally kills it. The arena goes dead silent for a second. In the control room, the officials staring at the cameras can't even process what they just saw. The boss nervously asks if the new kid finally went down, but when the image clears and Zhou Chen is the one still standing, his face turns pale. In the stands, the white-haired girl stares wide-eyed at him, completely stunned. Still gripping the monster's head, Zhou Chen slowly lifts his gaze and looks straight into the camera. That cold death stare alone makes the official officials break into a cold sweat. The boss starts panicking, cursing about the fortune he spent to bring in that fighter, only for this masked kid to tear it apart like paper. The announcer quickly tries to recover, congratulating Zhou Chen and telling him to follow the staff backstage to collect his reward. A little later, a briefcase filled with cash is placed in front of him. An official explains that it totals around $500,000. Zhou Chen reaches out to grab it, but the boss suddenly slams the case shut with a shady grin. He says the deal has changed. Either Zhou Chen becomes a permanent fighter and gets the full amount, or he walks away with only a quarter. Zhou Chen slowly narrows his eyes and tells him to repeat that. The boss snaps back, yelling that the other contestants ran after that fight and his prized warrior just suffered from sudden head loss disease. Zhou Chen calmly reminds him that this wasn't the original agreement. The rules clearly stated fighters aren't liable if their opponent dies in the ring. He asks again if that wasn't the condition. His aura alone drains the color from the boss's face, giving off pure murderous vibes. Zhou Chen demands the full payment or there will be consequences. Instead of backing down, the boss pulls out a gun and points it at him. Zhou Chen doesn't even blink. In one smooth motion, he dismantles the weapon and snaps the thug's finger like a twig. The boss screams in pain and orders his men to fill the kid with bullets. The lackeys immediately draw their guns. Zhou Chen just sighs, clearly annoyed. Outside, the white-haired girl hears sudden gunfire and tenses up. A second later, a bodyguard comes flying through a window like an empty soda can and crashes onto the street. The crowd starts wondering if some kind of movie is being filmed. The girl, however, knows better. She's pretty sure this chaos has Zhou Chen's name written all over it. Inside, Zhou Chen tears through the armed bodyguards without hesitation. One bald thug raises his gun, but Zhou Chen slams his head straight through the wall before he can fire. Bursting out of the building with the briefcase in hand, he sprints into the streets while the thugs upstairs shout orders to capture him. As he runs, he realizes he's hitting his limit. His body feels heavier, and his injuries are slowly draining his strength. Suddenly, a hand grabs his hoodie and yanks him into a narrow alley. The same white-haired girl quickly covers his mouth as the thugs rush past without noticing them. When the coast is clear, she tells him he's safe. Zhou Chen recognizes her from earlier. She tells him to conserve his strength and says she knows a hidden escape route. She leads him to a tunnel and warns that if he doesn't move now, the thugs will seal off the entire district. He tries to speak, but she cuts him off and tells him to go. With no other option, he thanks her and disappears into the tunnel. After he's gone, she taps her communicator. On the other end, someone angrily demands to know where she disappeared. She brushes it off and tells her sister to shut up and put their grandfather on the line because she has something important to report. Back at his apartment, Zhou Chen barely manages to stumble inside before collapsing onto the floor. He gasps for air, clutching his chest and fighting to stay conscious. When the last bit of strength leaves his body, he finally blacks out. He drifts into a dream where his mother apologizes for lying about getting better. The truth is worse. She only has a few years left at most. She tells him she wanted to see him grow up, meet his children someday, and just spend more time together. She apologizes for not being strong enough to stay by his side and tells him she loves him more than anything. Tears stream down his face as he's suddenly dragged back to reality. His eyes snap open, and he finds himself staring at the sunny sky outside the window. Slowly sitting up, he realizes he's still inside Zhou Chen's house. Relief washes over him. He's alive. It was just the nightmare from childhood that woke him. Then a voice echoes in his head, asking if he's finally awake. It catches him off guard. He asks Goldfinger where he's been these past few days. The cursed book mutters something about handling business. Then it flips the question and asks what exactly he did to end up unconscious for 2 days straight. Before Zhou Chen can answer, Goldfinger pieces it together. He snuck into an underground arena, burned too much energy, and fought a monster head-on. The demon explodes, shouting at him for being reckless. Zhou Chen tries to shrug it off, but Goldfinger keeps going, warning that his power isn't enough to revive him a second time. He tells him to value his life more because this is already his second chance. That actually makes Zhou Chen smile a little. He thanks the demon for worrying about him. Goldfinger relaxes and admits that the monster he described doesn't sound like something from this world. That makes Zhou Chen briefly think about the white-haired girl he met there, but he pushes the thought aside. Right now, leveling up is what matters. Then he suddenly remembers the reward from last night. He quickly opens the briefcase and sees stacks of crisp bills inside. The demon mocks him for risking his life over money, but Zhou Chen replies that at least now he doesn't have to worry about his debt until after the tournament. Looking down at his injured body, he mutters that he needs to patch himself up before heading back to school. Rubbing his head, Zhou Chen groans about how he still has to hit the hospital, the bank, and classes all in the same day. At the hospital, the doctor checks him over and says the wound will heal quickly, as long as he keeps it clean. Noticing how fast his body is recovering, the doctor casually asks if he happens to be an oracle. Zhou Chen admits that he is. The doctor instantly switches tone and starts pitching some premium membership plan. Zhou Chen shuts that down immediately and asks for regular medicine instead. Feeling relieved that the monster's tongue wasn't poisonous, he watches the doctor hand him a bottle of ointment, but the moment he grabs it, he freezes. The bottle is glowing in his hand. He asks why it's shining, but the doctor looks at him like he's crazy and insists it's just a normal container. Zhou Chen doesn't believe that for a second. He clearly sees it glowing. The doctor awkwardly suggests counseling sessions for stress-induced hallucinations and tries to push the membership again, but Zhou Chen ignores him and walks out. In the hallway, he suddenly notices strange energy flowing everywhere everywhere. When he raises his hand, it glows even brighter. That's when it clicks. It's star energy. Remembering the underground fight, he suspects that battle triggered some kind of awakening. A small smile forms on his face. If he can truly sense star energy now, then absorbing it should become way more efficient. Just then, a man walks past him radiating a bright green aura. Zhao Chen forces himself to act normal. After the man passes, he sneaks another look and immediately breaks into a cold sweat. That guy's star energy is on a completely different level. The green-haired man pauses slightly, sensing something, wondering if someone just scanned him. Then he brushes it off. On his communicator, a voice angrily orders him to track down the alien star immediately. He tells them to calm down since he plans to stay in the country for a while. The voice reminds him that the boss's prophecy labeled the alien star as a boss-tier threat that requires constant monitoring. Sliding off his sunglasses, the green-haired man smirks and says the boss worries too much. If that alien star really is their enemy, he'll crush them without hesitation. The next day at school, the principal scolds Zhou Chen for skipping both classes and ignoring his calls. Zhou Chen apologizes and says he got caught up in personal matters. Instead of staying angry, the principal softens his tone. He reassures him that he has full confidence in him for the tournament. He even asks if the school can help if he's dealing with serious trouble, reminding him that supporting elite oracles is their top priority. Zhou Chen smiles and promises to give everything he has in the tournament. That finally puts the principal at ease. Later, Shen and Xiaoshai rush over, asking what happened. Shen suddenly remembers that Zhou Chen mentioned a combat technique and starts digging through his pockets. He pulls out a credit card and proudly says they managed to gather 300,000 for him. He can pay it back later. Zhou Chen freezes. He didn't expect them to take him that seriously. He thanks them sincerely, but admits he changed his mind about buying the technique. Right then, Wenhao shows up looking unusually awkward. He offers 50,000 as an apology for his earlier behavior. Zhou Chen thanks him, while Xiaoshai immediately interrogates the redhead, asking if he has some hidden motive. Wenhao admits he only wanted to make up for calling him a fraud, and hopes they can be friends. Xiaoxia leans toward Zhou Chen and whispers if they should let him join. Zhou Chen shrugs and says he doesn't mind. She turns back to Wenhao and says he can join as the fourth member. He replies that rank doesn't matter to him. Shen instantly tries to boss him around and tells him to fetch water, which sparks a heated argument between the two. Watching them bicker, Shenjun smiles. He's finally found real friends. Later, while running on a treadmill, he recalls that oracles absorb more star energy during physical training, but the absorption rate is painfully slow. Even with training gear on, most of the energy just leaks away. He realizes this must be why so many people stay stuck at level 1 forever. He needs a better method. That's when Shen suggests doing a duel match instead of boring solo training. It suddenly clicks for Zhou Chen. He awakened his new ability during a fight. Maybe combat really boosts absorption. He tells Shen to gather everyone. Soon Shen and Xiaoshai launch a combined attack on him. Zhou Chen handles both of them at once, and after more than an hour tells them to rest. They're completely out of breath. Xiaoxia admits she thought he was joking about a 1-on-2 spar. Shen grins and says this training method is insanely effective. Then it's Wenhao's turn. The redhead smirks, ready to jump in. Watching everyone, Zhou Chen realizes his theory is correct. Their absorption rates are rising fast. They're going to level up quicker than usual. As for himself, his natural absorption rate is already high. He starts thinking about pushing things further. In this world, supplements are diluted to keep them safe, but even then, people with low absorption barely benefit from them. By comparison, the borrow power skill is 100 times more concentrated than any supplement. If he absorbs it recklessly, his body would explode, but if he can control the flow and take it in slowly, leveling up at insane speed might actually be possible. With that gamble in mind, Zhou Chen activates borrow power. Heavy waves of aura explode out of him instantly, and the raw force almost knocks him off balance. It makes sense though, the skill boosts him by 2 full levels in one shot, so of course it's insane. He clenches his teeth and forces the raging energy into a thin, controlled stream. Slowly, he starts absorbing it instead of letting it explode outward. His whole body locks up from the pressure, muscles trembling like they're about to tear apart. The energy fills him faster than anything he's ever felt. It's overwhelming. Then panic hits. His body feels like it's about to burst. With no other option, Zhou Chen raises his hand and releases the excess upward. A blast of energy shoots into the air, sending shockwaves across the training hall. Shen, Xiaoxia, and Wenhao all shield themselves, staring in disbelief at the pressure crushing down on them. They can't believe what they're seeing. One second he was training, the next he looks completely overpowered. That disturbance draws Goldfinger out immediately. The demon appears and freezes when he sees the scene. Zhou Chen, drenched in sweat, calmly tells him he managed to absorb it. For a moment, Goldfinger can't even speak. Then he mutters, almost to himself, wondering if Zhou Chen is actually the soulmate he's been waiting for all this time. Zhou Chen asks what he just said. The demon quickly brushes it off and says he's just glad the kid isn't dead. Hearing the explosion earlier, Coach Thian Zi runs over and demands to know what happened. Xiao Ha quickly points at Zhou Chen, saying he's the one who released that energy. The coach stares at the amount of star energy still lingering in the air, and immediately orders the assistants to bring the measurement device. When they measure him, everyone freezes. Zhou Chen has officially reached level 3. For a second, the coach thinks the device is broken. Then reality sinks in. This is the first level 3 oracle the school has seen in a long time. He immediately rushes off to inform the principal. Back in the hall, Xiaoxia grabs Zhou Chen and and demands to know how he leveled up so fast. She begs him to teach her the method. He just shrugs and says it's all from intense training. In his head though, he decides next time he'll do this privately so he doesn't cause chaos again. The three of them get fired up and raise the intensity of their practice even more. Later, Zhou Chen quietly asks Goldfinger why he didn't get angry this time. The demon replies that he's getting used to his reckless stunts. Technically, Goldfinger could dump massive power into him anytime to level him up fast, since he needs Zhou Chen strong, but Zhou Chen says there's no need to rush. He's already storing a mountain of star energy. Once he fully stabilizes this new level, he'll level up again. Simple. Hearing that, Goldfinger actually goes silent for once. Time flies, and soon the tournament day arrives. The whole squad is buzzing when they enter the massive venue. Xiao Shia looks around wide-eyed, saying she can't believe she made it here and that her mom would be proud. Shen flexes some knowledge, pointing out that this year has the biggest crowd ever. Wenhao smirks and asks Zhou Chen if he's ready for the level 4 bracket. He's still salty that he didn't level up in time to join it. Zhou Chen just shrugs. The principal's words echo in his head. Give it your all. If things get messy, forfeit. No shame in surviving. Since level 3 and level 4 arenas are separated, they part ways. Zhou Chen heads off alone to prepare. Meanwhile, the principal and coach enter the VIP area, looking impressed. The coach laughs, saying this kind of luxury is exactly what they've been waiting for, all thanks to finally having a fighter in the level 4 bracket. Suddenly, Principal Wang approaches and congratulates them for producing 2 high-level students in just a few months. The principal humbly says it's all the students' hard work. He just supported them. He also thanks Wang for providing key information about the competition. After the recent reforms, the government announced grants for winning schools, which means this year's tournament is even tougher. Then an arrogant man complains loudly that some hillbilly forced his way into the VIP lounge. The principal wants to respond, but Wang quietly tells him not to stir trouble. Those are principals from schools that have already won before. The principal calmly replies, that's all in the past. No one knows who will win this year. A white-haired man mockingly tells him to enjoy the VIP view while it lasts. The coach quietly asks if the students will be okay, since this is their first time at such a high-level event. The principal asks what he thinks of them. The coach answers without hesitation. They're all talented, and Zhou Chen isn't just talented. He's a prodigy beyond genius. The principal nods and says they just need to trust the students. In the stands, the class representative cheers nervously for Zhou Chen. She's never attended something like this before and can't believe he's actually competing. A week earlier, she had been thinking that he'd become the academy's rising star. She assumed he wouldn't even look at someone from the lower class anymore. Lost in thought, she almost trips and falls, but Zhou Chen suddenly appears and catches her just in time. He asks if she's okay. She thanks him and nervously asks what he's doing here. He smiles and says he saw her and just wanted to say hi. She admits she thought he wouldn't talk to lower class students anymore. Zhou Chen looks at her seriously and says, friends are forever. No matter how strong someone gets, that doesn't change. Hearing his words, she feels relieved. Zhou Chen really hasn't changed at all. In her heart, she becomes even more certain that he can win this tournament. The announcer suddenly declares that the contestants are coming to the stage. The class representative lights up the moment she sees Zhou Chen walking out with the others. The announcer welcomes everyone to this year's exchange competition and introduces himself along with his partner Lillian. The moment her name is mentioned, the crowd explodes. Lillian is one of the most famous idols in the entire country. She smiles and says that today she's just an ordinary announcer because the real stars are the contestants. The announcer then explains the rules. From 12 academies, there are 48 contestants. 16 are in the level 4 bracket and 32 are in the level 3 bracket. The main hall is reserved for the level 4 matches, and final rankings will be calculated based on combined scores from both brackets. Contestants will fight one by one. Winners advance and face the next winner until only one fighter remains. Each match has a 30-minute time limit, and it ends when one side surrenders or completely loses the ability to fight. Lillian adds that this year's rules are tougher than ever, but tells everyone not to worry and to look at the very top of the pillar. The crowd gasps when they see an S-rank oracle sitting there. To casually show his dominance, the S-rank lightly taps the ground with one finger, and the entire floor trembles. The announcer explains that this master personally set up the special ring, which protects the audience from stray attacks and can instantly repair itself after every match. He also instructs contestants to wear special gems that act as identification and provide protection in life-threatening situations. The crowd whispers in awe about how terrifying an S-rank truly is. Zhou Chen looks at the S-rank calmly and thinks his presence feels almost like Gojo from a manga. The guy looks completely relaxed, like none of this even matters to him. Lillian announces that results will be displayed on the gemstones and officially declares the tournament has begun. The first match ends in just 17 minutes, with Zhao Ran taking the win. In the VIP section, the principal says he can't believe an S-rank oracle is personally overseeing the tournament. That alone means this year will be brutal. Principal Wang explains that the real gap lies between level 4 and level 3. Level 4 oracles have complete mastery over their techniques, and elite schools are so well wealthy that buying C-rank combat techniques is routine for them. They constantly win because they invest grant money into the best potions and techniques. But this year might be different. In the 5th match, Lan Qin faces Li Zhe. Qin effortlessly dodges every attack, clearly toying with her opponent. Then she uses an ability-based technique to restrain him and finishes the match cleanly. The crowd goes wild. Some even whisper that she must be using magic. The principal looks shocked because that kind of ability can only come from a superior ranked oracle. Principal Wang proudly declares she's a prodigy who awakened her ability at a very young age. Principal Li shrugs and says it doesn't matter. Wang smirks and asks why Li tried to recruit her. If that's true, Li replies coldly that it was just an early awakening and nothing special. In the 6th match, Wang's student doesn't even give his opponent a chance. The fight ends in 5 seconds flat. The crowd starts saying that the Blazing Oracle will probably win the whole tournament again. Another principal comments that no one can compare to a student personally trained by Principal Li. Li calmly says barking dogs don't bite. Wang simply tells him to wait and see. Watching all of this, Zhou Chen thinks these fights are on a completely different level. Just qualifying for this tournament already feels like a miracle for someone like him. If he can win even one match, or at least put on a show, that's enough for now. After the 7th match ends, it's finally his turn next. He wonders what kind of fighter his opponent will be. Inside his head, Goldfinger tells him to borrow power and finish it quickly, but Zhou Chen refuses. If he does that, he'll attract too much attention. If someone starts investigating him, things could get messy. On his way to the ring, he runs into Zhou Chen. She tells him he's unlucky to be in the last match because his opponent is one of the strongest fighters here. His combat technique is so powerful that not even a D-rank oracle can fully withstand it. Zhou Chen asks if using such a dangerous technique in lower-ranked matches isn't risky. Qin explains that the gemstone can block one lethal attack, but it doesn't prevent heavy damage. That's just the harsh reality of the competition. He asks why she's helping him. She replies that they're allies. They share the same goal, beating all the arrogant fools here. Before leaving, she admits she hoped he could help her later on, but since his opponent is so strong, she says it would already be impressive if he can just exhaust him a little. Hearing that, Zhou Chen starts wondering if his opponent is really that terrifying. Finally, the last match of the first round is about to begin. The crowd cheers loudly as he steps into the ring. For a second, he thinks it's a warm welcome, but the cheers aren't for him. They're for contestant Lei Che, who makes his entrance like someone who just walked off an Avengers set. The announcer says no one expected the last match of the first round to feature Lei Che. He awakened as an oracle at only 12 years old, and in just 4 years advanced to level 4. He even received a national certificate and a guild invitation. Calling him the best fighter of this new era wouldn't be an exaggeration. The moment Lei Che steps into the ring, the crowd goes insane. Cheers explode from every corner of the arena. The class representative starts to worry because not a single person is cheering for Zhou Chen. A random guy next to her says that of course everyone supports Lei Che. He's strong and handsome. Meanwhile, his opponent just looks like some random hot-headed dude. Hearing that, she fires back, saying she supports Zhou Chen because he's genuinely kind and gentle. The two start arguing, and people around them begin wondering what's even happening in the stands. Most of the crowd is just excited to see how the genius will perform, and whether anyone can stop the undefeated Lianguang Academy. The announcer declares the match will begin, but Lillian interrupts him, asking if he forgot to introduce the other fighter. He quickly apologizes and admits he got carried away. He then introduces Zhou Chen as the representative from Lady Oracle Academy, noting that this is the school's first time participating. Other than that, he awkwardly admits there's nothing particularly notable about him, and wonders if the academy should have at least bought him a combat technique before sending him here. The crowd immediately starts talking trash. Some laugh at the idea that someone like him could fight a genius. The bandana guy in the stands bursts out laughing and loudly mocks the class rep. In the VIP section, Principal Wu Yu says it's unfortunate they have to face their academy's rising star in his first year, but not to worry, it'll end quickly. Principal Wang calmly replies that everyone has to start somewhere, so there's no need to get worked up. Inside the ring, Lei Che tells Zhou Chen that he almost feels bad for him. In his very first tournament, he had to face someone like him. Zhou Chen calmly tells him to focus on the fight instead. Suddenly, Lei Che dashes forward and appears right beside him in an instant. He casually says he'll only use 10% of his power, so even if the opponent loses, it won't look too embarrassing. The announcer shouts that the final match of the first round officially begins. In the next second, Lei Che moves so fast it looks like he created multiple shadow clones. All of them attack at the same time. Every contestant watching knows this is brutal. Principal OU is convinced no one can beat him. Lei Che assumes Zhou Chen isn't reacting because he can't even see him. In his mind, the only real threat in this tournament is Wang. Thinking it's over, Lei Che prepares to deliver the finishing blow, but as he closes in, Zhou Chen calmly asks if he's not going to dodge. Then he lands a savage punch straight to Lei Che's face. The entire arena goes silent. No one understands what just happened. Zhou Chen just countered the genius and hit him clean. Lei Che is famous for dodging everything with his speed, so was he careless, or did he actually fail to dodge? Whispers spread across the crowd. Some even think Zhou Chen must be using some kind of hack, because nobody ever lands the first hit on Lei Che. Principal OU mutters that something's wrong, maybe cheating, but Principal Wang replies that if there were any tricks, the higher-ups would have caught it already. Principal Li tells OU to stop whining and just watch the match. It's far from over. On the stage, Lei Che shouts that he's not done yet. He admits he didn't take Zhou Chen seriously before, and now swears to go all out. Lightning coils around him as he charges power, shouting that his energy is barely under control. Bolts of lightning begin to gather around his body. Zhou Chen stands there calmly, not even blinking. He actually finds it amusing how much star energy Lei Che is burning. Suddenly, a flash of yellow lightning shoots past him. Lei Che ricochets off the barrier and starts bouncing around the arena like a hyperactive pinball, gaining more speed with every impact. The announcer screams that the genius is about to unleash his trump card, while Lillian keeps hyping it up dramatically. Lei Che grins, convinced the win is secured, and dives from above with a fully charged kick. Zhou Chen doesn't dodge. He doesn't block. He simply throws one clean punch straight into Lei Che's face. The combined momentum of Lei Che's own charge sends him crashing uncontrollably across the arena floor. Zhou Chen calmly calls out that he should have attacked earlier, when he still had a chance. The announcer declares that Lei Che is down again. This time, his gemstone turns red, confirming he can no longer continue. While the announcer celebrates the shocking victory, Zhou Chen briefly wonders if Lei Che will be okay. The gemstone should have prevented anything fatal. The crowd erupts in disbelief. The match ended way too fast. With Lei Che defeated, Zhou Chen steps in for the next quarterfinal and wins effortlessly. After that, Wang Zhou crushes his opponent without even breaking a sweat. The audience starts calling him a beast. Even so, most eyes keep drifting back to Zhou Chen. The messy-haired kid gives the stands a cold stare that makes an entire section go quiet. In the fourth match, Zhao Ran from another academy steps into the ring to face Zhou Chen, and this time the fight is anything but easy. Zhu Chen dodges every single strike from Zhao Ran with veteran precision, calm and untouchable. The guy throws everything he has, but it's like he's swinging at air. Then Zhu Chen ends it with one light punch to Ran's head. Nothing flashy, just clean and simple. Zhao Ran drops hard and crashes to the ground. From above, the officials watch closely and start commenting. They point out that Zhou Chen hasn't used a single combat technique so far. He's relying purely on raw star energy control, which is insane. One of them even wonders if he's hiding his true level, or worse, using drugs, which would be a massive violation of tournament rules. Back in the arena, the announcer starts hyping up the semi-finals. He calls Zhu Chen up to face another fighter, Liu Yue, building the tension. Suddenly, he freezes mid-sentence as officials in dark suits walk onto the stage. The audience starts whispering in confusion, trying to figure out who these guys are. One inspector orders Zhou Chen to put on special equipment and release his star energy. The crowd quickly realizes these are tournament inspectors. The buzzing gets louder as people start suspecting he's being accused of cheating. Zhou Chen begins sweating, thinking maybe he pushed his power a little too far, and mentally notes that he should limit himself next time. The inspectors check the readings carefully. After a tense pause, they announce that everything is stable and within allowed limits. They declare to the entire crowd that the contestant is not cheating. Then they step aside. The announcer, still in disbelief, shouts that Zhu Chen has officially been confirmed as level 4. The semifinal is cleared to begin. The crowd takes a second to process that information. Then they explode, realizing our boy is completely legit. Across the stage, Liu Yue starts shaking. His face turns pale as the reality sinks in. When the match begins, it ends almost instantly. Zhou Chen knocks him out cold, with one decisive strike. The announcer nearly loses his voice screaming into the microphone. Meanwhile, Lillian keeps adding useless filler commentary that nobody really needs. Up in the stands, Principal Wang turns towards Zhou Chen's principal and praises him for producing such a monster of a student. The man smugly accepts the compliments. The other principals who once mocked him suddenly rush over to praise him too. He smiles politely, though all the attention makes him slightly uncomfortable. On the other side, Li and Yu watch with clear annoyance written on their faces. Irritated by the crowd of bootlickers, the principal allows himself a proud smile, thinking Zhou Chen truly kept his promise and protected the honor of their school. Back on the arena floor, the last semi-final is announced. Lan Qin walks onto the stage with tense determination in her eyes. Across from her, Wang Zhuo steps forward, his gaze gleaming like a predator staring at fresh prey. The atmosphere immediately shifts. Lan Qin's juniors roar encouragement from the stands. The noise distracts Wang Zhuo for just a split second. She notices the opening and charges forward without hesitation. Using her flowing cloud hand technique, she slams a powerful strike into his chest. Wang Zhuo doesn't even stumble. He just looks mildly irritated and stares her down. Her confidence starts crumbling as panic creeps in. She realizes her full force attack barely scratched him. Wang Zhuo casually grabs her wrist and asks if she really thinks she's talented. Lan Qian snaps back and tells him to get lost. She drives her elbow straight into his face. He doesn't blink and says he actually finds this situation hilarious. Desperation fuels her next move. She charges another blast and binds him tightly with her magic until he looks like a mummy wrapped head to toe. Then she unleashes relentless wind-style kicks, pounding his wrapped body over and over. For a moment, she allows herself to breathe, convinced she finally did some damage. That hope shatters instantly. Wang Zhuo suddenly appears behind her like a ghost. The blood drains from her face as she realizes what just happened. She tries to turn around, confused about how he moved so fast. It's already too late. He drives his fist into her, using his blood rage arts. The impact sends her flying straight into the barrier, cracking it open as shards scatter everywhere. Lan Qin drops to her knees, barely able to breathe. The announcer declares that Wang Zhu now has the upper hand. Her juniors turn away in tears, unable to watch her getting completely destroyed. Principal Wang clenches his fists, silently begging his star student to endure. She remains motionless, staring at the red charm lying beside her. Her voice trembles as she whispers that she can't afford to lose. The sight of the charm pulls her into a memory back at school. She had walked into a room filled with worried students. One girl, crying, told her that if the academy shut down, she would be forced to drop out despite dreaming of becoming an oracle. Lamkin hugged the girls and promised she wouldn't let that happen. She swore she would win the tournament and bring the funds needed to keep the academy open. The black-haired girl looked unconvinced, but Lankin insisted she had never broken her word. The girl then pulled out a handmade red charm for good luck. That simple gesture warmed Lan Qin's heart. She promised she would fight with everything she had. Back in the present, she reaches toward the charm again. She whispers that she made a promise. Wang Zhuo doesn't care. He steps forward and crushes the good luck charm under his foot without hesitation. He mocks her, asking if this is all she amounts to. Then he brutally kicks her while keeping his hands buried in his pockets. Her crystal turns red and she falls unconscious. Even then, Wang Zhuo keeps taunting her. The announcer shouts that the fight is over. Wang Zhuo ignores it and raises his foot again, ready to crush her completely. The crowd starts panicking. The announcer screams for someone to stop him. Spectators stare in horror, wondering what the monster is about to do. Principal Wang's voice cracks as he begs for someone to save his student. One official demands action from the master, but the man stays calm and claims the situation is under control. Meanwhile, Wang Zhou slams his foot down with savage force. The impact carves a crater into the arena floor. Dust flies everywhere. Then his eyes widen. His target is gone. Standing there now is Zhou Chen, holding Qin in his arms. He saved her at the last possible second. He calls out the beast, asking if this is the kind of bullying his school teaches. Wang spins around, fury blazing in his eyes. He screams Zhou Chen's name at the top of his lungs. The announcer cries out in pure relief, declaring that our boy rescued Qin just in time. Principal Wang rushes forward and grabs his injured student, thanking the heavens she's still breathing. The crowd grows restless, unable to believe the beast really tried to finish her, even after she lost. Wang doesn't care at all, and boldly walks towards Zhou Chen, declaring he'll unalive anyone who dares block his path. That arrogance finally lights a fire in Zhou Chen, and he shoots back a death stare, daring the beast to take his shot. The doctors wheel Chen away while the announcer pushes the staff to reset the arena fast. Up in the stands, Shen and the class rep gather with the others. She confirms Zhou Chen already made it to the finals, but admits something feels off about his opponent. The principal's friend yells for Zhou Chen not to underestimate who he's facing, and our boy calmly assures him there's nothing to worry about. Back in the arena, Wang mocks Zhou Chen for thinking he stands a chance. Zhou Chen fires back, saying the guy talks way too much, and asking if he's here to fight or just keep yapping. Their auras flare up wildly as they square off, turning it into a straight-up energy standoff. The announcer officially declares the match has begun. Wang launches a sudden punch, but Zhou Chen tanks it like it's nothing, not even moving an inch. The beast smirks and says he expected more, but Zhou Chen instantly claps back that he stole the words right out of his mouth. Now Wang is the one sweating. Zhou Chen presses harder, questioning if this is really the level of a previous tournament champion. He goes for a grab, but Wang barely dodges. The beast activates his blood rage skill, forcing star energy into his body to boost his strength. The two start hammering each other at full speed, neither backing down. The announcer yells that he's never seen a level 4 fighter brawl this ferociously before. Even Zhou Chen's classmates sit stunned, realizing he's been holding back in every sparring session. In the arena, Zhou Chen plants a brutal uppercut straight into Wang Zhou's jaw. His teacher and principal stare wide-eyed, struggling to believe their own student is this strong. Blood sprays from Wang Zhou's mouth as he wonders how someone like him could get pushed back. That thought only fuels his rage. Goldfinger appears, pointing out that Wang Zhou is literally forcing star energy into his body to jack up his power. In a flash, Wang Zhou vanishes, but Zhou Chen keeps up easily. He prepares an elbow strike, thinking speed is useless against his perception skill. In the control room, an official nervously asks the master if they should recheck Wang Zhuo's level since it's rising too fast. Calm as ever, the master explains it's just his family's blood rage arts pushing him up one level, so it's not cheating. Then he admits the real mystery is Zhou Chen, who still hasn't gone all out. He can't help but wonder how far this kid can actually go. Back in the ring, they exchange rapid punches non-stop, pure chaos. Shen shouts that Zhou Chen is getting pushed back, but the redhead corrects him, saying he's actually deflecting everything perfectly. Zhou Chen keeps dodging and weaving, locked in and searching for an opening. Then he fires a crushing punch that forces Wang Zhou to block with everything he's got. The impact cracks the floor and sends Wang Zhou skidding back. Zhou Chen follows up with another heavy strike, and Wang Zhou admits he's the first fighter to push him this far. Fueled by pride, he powers up his blood arts even more, screaming that he's still the strongest. Zhou Chen stays unshaken and asks if that's really all he's got. Then Zhou Chen activates his borrow power skill, and his level starts rising too. The two powerhouses square up again. Zhou Chen realizes he can now clearly read Wang Zhou's attack pattern and detects his weak spot, the heart. Without hesitation, Zhou Chen drives a sharp elbow straight into his chest. Wang Zhuo's eyes go wide as the air gets knocked out of him, but Zhuo Chen doesn't stop, chaining attack after attack and forcing him fully on defense. Each punch grows heavier, while Wang Zhuo struggles to accept that Zhuo Chen's speed and strength are still climbing. Refusing to lose, he pushes his blood arts past past their limit. Zhu Chen calmly declares the fight already decided and charges his fist with pure star energy. Wang Zhuo screams for him to die and throws a massive punch of his own. Their fists collide, triggering a huge explosion that blasts shockwaves across the arena. Spectators shield themselves from the violent blast. The principal panics, demanding to know what just happened. As the smoke clears, the announcer shouts that Wang Zhuo is still standing. But in the next instant, the beast collapses. His crystal falls to the ground, glowing red. The only one left standing is Zhou Chen. With that, Lita School officially claims first place in the level 4 category and the entire championship. Zhou Chen's friends go crazy celebrating, screaming that they finally won. His teacher and principal cheer loudly, saying he made their school proud. Tears stream down the principal's face as he declares they'll never have to beg for funding again. His teacher just deadpans at the dramatic scene. The same principals who mocked him earlier now rush in to congratulate him, shamelessly sucking up to save face. Meanwhile, Principal Li is fuming at the humiliation. Even last year's runner-up principal looks completely lost. To make it worse, his supposed ally ditches him on the spot and bolts. Master Wu Yu quietly takes his leave as well, now that the tournament is over, and the official sincerely thanks him for his efforts. On his way out, Li's eyes suddenly narrow when he spots two unfamiliar figures watching from the side. He instantly suspects they're there to scout Zhou Chen. An old man quietly tells the girl next to him that he never expected such a backwater school to produce a monster like this. He asks if she can recruit our hero into their guild. The girl, Lin En, admits she and Zhou Chen were childhood friends. Now he doesn't even recognize her. Even so, she swears she'll use everything she has to bring him in. Back inside the arena, the winning team stands proudly on stage. Cameras flash non-stop, while the principal shamelessly promotes Lady School Live, milking every second of the victory. Zhou Chen smiles for the photos, but thinks posing for pictures feels harder than the actual fight. The next day, the principal pulls him aside and admits he owes him big time for carrying the whole tournament. True to his word, he hands over the black crystal. The demon inside gets insanely excited. Still, the principal warns him that major academies will start calling now, and reminds him not to forget where he came from. When Zhou Chen steps outside the office, his friends are waiting with papers in hand, even though it's summer break. Shen throws an arm around him and explains that every top academy sent early admission letters and they've all been accepted. Zhou Chen congratulates them one by one, but they insist the real credit belongs to him. Then Shen gets serious and boldly declares that together they'll become the greatest team in the future. Zhou Chen looks slightly confused. Xia quickly explains that even if they attend different academies, they can still meet up and stick together. Zhu Chen smirks and says he's looking forward to it, since he'd be bored out of his mind otherwise. As they walk, he adds that he'll definitely need their help when it's time to train and get stronger. Suddenly, another figure steps out from the corner. The class rep looks at them with determination and asks if she can join their group too. She wants to grow stronger alongside them. Later, when she steps into the elite classroom, she's completely starry-eyed. She thanks Zhu Chen for helping her, but he brushes it off and says it was the principal. She also thanks the principal, who replies that he's happy to help. He announces that he plans to upgrade the facilities and make them available to everyone, now that they finally have funds. After winning the competition, he can finally make real changes, all thanks to his students. The gang jokes that all these upgrades are happening right after they're about to leave. Shaksha asks the class rep why she's training so hard during vacation with no competition coming up. The class rep shares her backstory, admitting she never believed she was talented. Watching everyone else work so hard lit a fire inside her. She reveals she wants to apply as a special cultural student, and the deadline is only 1 month away. The pink-haired girl gets emotional hearing that. Shaksha grabs her hand and promises to help however she can. Shen then asks Zhou Chen if he's decided on a school yet. He admits he hasn't received any letter. Everyone freezes, since they all got instant offers from the 5 major academies. The principal clears his throat and calls out to Zhu Chen, saying something arrived recently. He hands him a red envelope. Shen sighs in relief, saying there's no way their boy got overlooked. Zhou Chen reads it carefully and says it's from Dawn Academy. Everyone is shocked. The blonde immediately blurts out that Dawn sits at the very top. Zhou Chen asks for an explanation, so he breaks it down. There are 5 major academies that symbolize authority and power, but one stands above them all, Dawn Academy, and it even has the right to poach students from any other academy. Zhou Chen asks why there aren't 6, if Dawn is above the 5. The principal explains that Dawn's value can't be measured normally. All of them were built to combat something called the Rift. He gets serious and says this is confidential, but he'll tell them anyway. The Rift is another dimension filled with overpowered monsters. If those creatures break into the real world, it's game over. That's why envoys are sent to clear these rifts whenever portals appear. Clearing a rift is extremely profitable, but the risk is insane. The principal reveals he once belonged to a rift clearing squad. It only took the death of one key member for the whole team to collapse, and it was eventually disbanded. Even other academies send students into rifts, but Dawn is on another level, so he warns Zhou Chen to think carefully. He reassures him that the other academies are still open options, and that risking his life isn't something to take lightly. Zhou Chen has already made up his mind. He says he'll join Dawn. The principal smiles like he expected that answer, and comments that he'll definitely reach new heights. Shen throws an arm around him again and says they'll all grow stronger together, so even the rift won't be a big deal. Then the blonde notices the deadline is only 10 days away, even though it's usually half a year. Now Zhou Chen is the one sweating. He says he needs to prepare and won't be able to train the class rep for now. The gang reassures him they'll handle things. Back at his apartment, he starts making a preparation list. Suddenly, the demon book appears and makes the black crystal float in front of it. An arm extends from the book and touches the crystal. It absorbs something from inside. The black crystal drops to the floor and shatters. Zhou Chen nearly has a heart attack. Shu is heartbroken, whining that he wanted to sell the black crystal for cash. Goldfinger tells him to let it go since it's useless now, and asks how the school visit went instead. Zhou Chen reveals he got accepted into Dawn Academy, the perfect place to earn money and grow stronger. The only catch is that he'll have to raid rifts. The demon book brushes it off, saying rifts are nothing to fear, since star energy literally comes from there. Zhou Chen quickly changes the subject and asks if there's any reward, since one of his wishes has already been fulfilled. Goldfinger gets annoyed at being treated like a wishing well. Still, he agrees to help because the rifts are connected to his own goals. He tells Zhou Chen to endure it, and releases a wave of dark energy into him. Our boy absorbs the aura, and the system notifies him that he has unlocked the ability Divine Creation. The power reshapes his entire body as he grits his teeth through the pain. When it's over, he has reached level 6. Breathing heavily, Zhou Chen asks what just happened. The system explains he can now create anything using his energy. Goldfinger reveals that the skill once belonged to his old friend Sato, and it can literally create anything. Zhou Chen wonders if this is just a fancy way to level up. Goldfinger immediately scolds him, saying levels aren't everything. He explains that levels only improve basic physique, but the first awakening at Dank determines someone's true future. That's why he gave him this skill, so he wouldn't awaken something completely useless. It suddenly clicks for Zhou Chen that Qin had an ability type awakening too. Normal combat skills don't even compare. He realizes entering a rift requires more than brute strength. Goldfinger tells him the power depends entirely on mindset and urges him to test it. After the remodeling, Zhou Chen notices he can't feel star energy being absorbed anymore. Even the system panel now looks like a full-on video game interface. Checking his stats, he wonders if there's a shop feature, but it's locked. A bunch of other functions are also locked until he levels up. On the level up screen, he sees several side missions, but doesn't have enough soul points to activate them. Goldfinger asks what's taking so long. Zhou Chen explains that he needs to enter a rift to level up properly, but he's not strong enough yet. The demon book starts complaining that he's turning out to be pretty useless. Suddenly, a new system notification pops up. Another wish has been completed. His body glows as he receives a new reward, Mage Armor. The equipment is unique grade and can summon armor around his body to block attacks. It boosts both defense and strength. Zhou Chen is thrilled. Goldfinger gets a little emotional, saying he just used up all the power he had stored. He tells Zhou Chen to do his best from here on. The next day, the principal asks why he's leaving so early. Zhou Chen explains that even though the trip only takes a day, he wants to arrive ahead of time. He hands the principal a note and asks him to give it to his sister at the hospital and keep an eye on her. The principal says he should deliver it himself. Zhou Chen replies that the situation is complicated and he can't see her right now. The principal doesn't press further and agrees. Everyone wishes Zhou Chen well. He waves goodbye and heads out. At the airport, the receptionist asks why he needs a visa and flight ticket to the city's mid-level area. Zhou Chen says he got admitted. She finds that odd, since it's summer vacation. She asks for proof. He hands over Dawn Academy's card. Her eyes widen immediately. She says she's never seen one in her entire career. She stares at him in disbelief while he looks confused. He asks if she needs the admission letter too. She quickly apologizes and says the card is more than enough. He's surprised he doesn't even need a ticket. She explains that someone of his status only needs one for the return flight. Later, Zhou Chen lounges in his first-class seat, wondering if this is also a Dawn privilege. Looking out the window, he hopes the academy lives up to the hype. Upon arriving at Dawnbreaker Academy, the atmosphere feels strangely calm. He heads to reception for registration. When the receptionist hears the name Zhou Chen, he immediately offers to personally escort him, since someone is waiting. Zhou Chen is low-key shocked. He didn't expect to be important enough for that. They stop at a stone monument, and the receptionist instructs him to place his card on it. Confused but obedient, he does. In the next second, they're teleported directly to the academy grounds. The experience leaves him speechless. Soon after, he's brought to the person waiting for him, a beautiful girl with long white hair, Lin En. She asks if he remembers her. He admits that he does, and says he's been hoping for a chance to thank her. To his surprise, she turns out to be his senior. Once the receptionist leaves, Zhou Chen wonders why Lin En seems so eager. Before he can step closer, Ku Mingcheng blocks his path. Lin En frowns, and sharply tells Ku Ji Mingcheng to show respect to their guest. She invites Zhou Chen to talk. He asks her to get straight to the point, so she makes him an offer to join her guild. The price she offers is 30 million. Zhou Chen's mind nearly explodes. Even Kui Mingcheng looks stunned, wondering if Lin En has completely lost it as he starts bad-mouthing our guy on the spot. Angrily, Lin En shoots a cold look at Kui Mingcheng and asks, since when he was put in charge of decisions. The guy instantly starts sweating, fumbling over his words, while thinking why she's even defending Zhou Chen. She turns back to our boy and calmly says 30 million is the highest she can offer. Zhou Chen feels torn between the insane money and his current weak E-rank status. Before he can answer, an announcement orders all freshmen to gather in the assembly hall. Lin En tells him to think carefully and says she understands how overwhelming the offer must be. He replies that he'll consider it, and she walks him to the hall. hall. Inside, a golden-haired guy sits near Zhou Chen, clearly trying to make him look small in comparison. His interest in Linen isn't pure at all. He plans to marry her someday, to strengthen his family's influence. The orientation begins as Zhang Hui introduces himself and congratulates them on entering Dawnbreaker. He calls them geniuses, but reminds them they're still just freshmen. He warns them about something called the Fissure, a deadly hunting ground where oracles can easily become prey. Normal weapons are useless there. Only powerful cores and gear made from Fissure materials truly work. Dawnbreaker gathers elite oracles to build a defense line against these threats. Adapt and grow stronger or become useless. That's the rule here. Seeing no fear in their eyes, Zhang Hui declares the first assessment a success. Each student receives a skill stone containing Wise, which allows them to sense and read Fissure script automatically. Then he announces 2 more tests. First, they must clear 1 low-rank Fissure as an entrance trial. Second, they must reach Dank and awaken their potential within half a year. Some students panic, while others look confident. The instructor reassures them that supplements will help speed up their progress. The seniors enter, and the hall falls silent when Lin En steps forward. Her presence alone dominates the room. Students gasp at seeing the heir of Shenhua Guild in person. One student begs to be chosen, saying he joined because of her. She rejects him for being strength type. Another switches to magic just to impress her, and she rejects him too. One after another, she turns everyone down. Zhang Hui grows impatient and warns her to pick at least 1 freshman or she'll be assigned whoever is left. The golden-haired boy waits confidently, convinced he'll win either way. Then Zhou Chen stands up and asks to be her mentee. The hall goes silent. To everyone's shock, she accepts. Later in the mission hall, Zhou Chen asks why she chose him and offered so much money. Lin En says she has personal reasons and will explain after the test. She introduces his team. Suhan is the supervisor and will only step in if someone is about to die. Lu Wei is the healer. Zhao Lin handles long-range attacks. Li Ruwei leads and makes tactical decisions. Li Rui notices Zhou Chen is empty-handed and asks if he awakened any special ability. He says no. That leaves the team wondering how the academy even accepted him. Lu Wei tells him to stay close for protection. He insists he has combat experience, which only makes her sigh. Still, they move forward as a unit. They are assigned to Fissure Room 1. A world tree fragment activates the portal. As soon as it opens, Zhou Chen feels a heavy, dense aura filling the air. They arrive inside a dark cave. Almost immediately, a pack of shadow demon wolves picks up their scent. Li Rui and Zhao Lin charge forward to fight. Li Wei rushes in to heal them. Mid-battle, she doesn't notice the beast lurking silently behind her. Li Wei was in despair, thinking she was going to die, but Zhou Chen quickly just slapped the monster away. He asked if the girl was okay, and she said yes. The system then announced that he had gained 1 proficiency point. He figured that apparently souls could only be obtained by killing the creatures personally, and it was amazing how that single monster alone gave 10 souls. That meant the stronger the target, the more souls it would yield, and he knew he had to face the big guy in the back now. One of the girls in the group attacked another monster and called for help, and the healer quickly arrived and healed her companion. She wondered if the freshman had really just saved her, since she hadn't even seen what happened. One of the women up above thought that the group's overall formation wasn't bad, but their coordination was sloppy, especially Li Rui, since he was the vanguard leader, yet only cared about having fun himself, and didn't even consider those in danger. She thought his level and equipment made up for his recklessness, but if they didn't regroup they would fail. Li Rui was convinced he could finish this test alone. A monster approached from behind, but he noticed it quickly and attacked. However, he dealt no damage at all, which left him terrified, and there were 2 monsters, unlike the others, advancing toward him. The girls wondered if they were really stone wolves, but his scream had also attracted other monsters, and they were surrounded. He asked Lu Wei for help, demanding to know why she was just standing there, adding that if he failed it would be her fault. But her friend told her not to go. Then one of the stone wolves lunged at Lu Wei without her noticing. Su Hen said that sending the rear guard alone in that situation was suicide, and she was about to intervene, but then she realized something. Zhou Chen had pulled Lu Wei aside and clamped the stone wolf's mouth shut with his hands, then crushed it with force, earning 30 soul crystals for killing it. Zhou Chen thought this one was stronger than the previous, so he gained more souls, but the wolf's stone armor meant nothing to his demonic armor. He told everyone to follow him, and that he would get them out of there. Then Zhou Chen grabbed a sword and rushed toward a stone wolf, slicing it easily. He cut down another that charged at him as well, gaining 60 souls. Su Hen wondered how a freshman could possess such skills. He was even stronger than a D rank. Even Zhao Lin questioned it, but Lu Wei told them to go help him. All the stone wolves rushed toward the 2 girls, and Zhou Chen told them to duck. With a few slashes, he easily cut down all the wolves, earning 120 souls. Zhou Chen commented that it should be safe now, and told Lu Wei to heal the others. Zhou Lin, in shock, wondered once again who this guy was. While Lu Wei healed Li Rui, Zhao said she would stand guard with him and mentioned they were fine thanks to Zhou Chen. Our protagonist reflected that he had gained more souls from those wolves than expected, but his thoughts were interrupted by Li Rui, who said he was going to quit the test. Li Wei asked him to hang on a little longer, since getting this opportunity had been difficult, but Li Rui said he had been on the front line while they did nothing, and he wondered how he could pass the test with useless people like them. Zhao Lin said it was his fault for rushing ahead, but Lu Wei asked her to to calm down. They wouldn't fight and would just finish the test. Li Rui asked, "Try what?" It was because of them that he was so badly injured, and without him they would do nothing. He thought he would make them understand his importance and wanted them to beg for it. But Zhou Chen appeared, asking him to be the vanguard and that they would finish it together. Li Rui asked if he would be the tank, and Zhou Chen thought this was a rare chance to enter a fissure and he couldn't just leave before leveling up. He told Li Rui that yes, if the team needed one, he would do it. Li Rui called him an idiot, saying he was full of himself just because he had killed a few stone wolves. Without any equipment, he would turn to dust before the final boss. However, the other girls agreed with his suggestion, leaving Li Rui surprised. Li Rui asked if they really believed this guy could be of great help. They said yes, since they had seen his skills before and had also worked hard to get this slot. Zhao Lin added that at least he was more reliable than a certain someone who cried and complained about quitting because of a few scratches. Li Rui was furious. He thought he was the captain and refused to be ignored. Everyone would regret it. As they moved forward, more stone monsters appeared, but Zhao Lin attacked them quickly, and Zhou Chen seized the chance to strike them all, gaining 60 souls. While they were fighting the shadow wolves, one was right behind them, but Zhou Chen threw another monster he had killed to block the attack. He asked if she was okay, and she confirmed, adding that everyone else seemed fine too. Zhao asked how many monsters they had killed so far, and Lu Wei said it must have been around 40. They had fought so many they didn't even notice. They all thought it was because the rookie was amazing, and he humbly said it was just because they worked well together. As they advanced toward the final boss, one of them asked what the blue light on his right arm was, since they had never seen anything like it. Zhou Chen thought explaining would be a hassle, so he would just make something up. He said he didn't know, it had just appeared out of nowhere. Zhao Lin said it looked like the effect of a potential, and it was no wonder he had suggested being the tank. Liu Wei asked if he was still D rank when he awakened it, and Zhao said he had lied when he claimed not to have a potential. They commented that maybe, since he was a freshman, he didn't know what he had, but Zhao said that if he had a potential, he should report it when joining a team so he wouldn't be discriminated against. Zhou Chen wondered if these cooperative missions were really mandatory. They managed to land the final blow on the monsters, losing many souls, and it would be even better if he could clear fissures alone. He had 810 souls, but he still needed 2,000. The instructor couldn't believe a freshman could change the team, and he was more suitable than Li Rui. No wonder Li Nen had insisted on putting him on the team. At this pace, they would probably finish the test. But she wondered about Li Rui and why he was hiding his presence while following the team. It seemed strange. Back with the group, they had reached the end, but there was no way out. They thought maybe there was no boss, and they had killed the target without noticing, but that would be impossible, since the fissure should have closed if that had happened. While they were talking, the monster approached from above, dropping down quickly. Zhao Lin wondered if they had been ambushing them the whole time, and when they saw it, the girls were shocked. There were 3 monsters, but the one in the center was a D rank, a rock wolf king. Su Hen appeared, and told them to fall back because it was dangerous. She said there were 3 elite wolves and a boss, far beyond the scope of the test. When the fissure had been analyzed, it hadn't been rated this high, and there was no way they could handle it with their current abilities. She was sure she wouldn't be able to protect them. Zhu Chen, however, thought about the number of souls he could gain if he fought them. It was still risky, but then he received a system mission ordering him to acquire the rock wolf soul, and leaving the fissure would be considered mission abandonment. He reflected that they were trying to cut off all his escape routes, creating this condition to force him to fight, but he smiled and wondered if it was really looking down on him. Zhu Chen then told Su Hen that he would handle it, and he activated his demonic armor. The instructor tried to stop him, saying it was dangerous, but the others asked her to just watch. Su Hen said that if he insisted, she would respect his decision, but she couldn't take responsibility if he died. Zhu Chen could feel how dangerous they were just from their aura. If it weren't for the demonic armor, he would be in big trouble. Even so, he didn't feel fear at all, and said that compared to the thing on his back, they were nothing. The 3 attacked at the same time, and he managed to dodge their blows. The girls were shocked, wondering if all tanks were like him, but they quickly denied it. After all, Li Rui was useless. Su Hen thought she had heard rumors about people as strong as him who could defeat a king-class monster alone, and she still couldn't gauge Zhou Chen's true potential. During the fight, Zhou Chen realized their speed was almost equal to his, and dragging this out would be dangerous. He wanted to defeat the king first, so he charged and threw a straight punch, but nothing happened. He was surprised, since he was wearing the armor. The king repelled him, and Zhou Chen realized it was trying to win through attrition. He had to find a way to win, and fast. Behind him, Li Rui watched in disbelief. Zhou Chen had challenged all 4, and was still alive. Incredible. If Zhou Chen could handle them, then maybe they were weak. This should be his moment. He should be the one killing them. He rushed toward the monsters with sword and shield. If he accidentally killed Zhou Chen and then finished off the monsters, his future would be set. But Zhou Chen easily knocked his attack aside, saying he had come at the perfect time. The wolf slashed at Li Rui with its claws. He tried to block with his shield, but it shattered instantly, and he was thrown away. Zhu Chen quickly grabbed his sword and said it was time to end this. He jumped, put all his points into agility, and activated divine speed, swiftly cutting the monster's neck and earning 750 souls. The system announced that while divine speed was active, his speed increased by an additional 10 points, along with extra strength based on speed. He immediately dashed toward another monster, piercing its throat and gaining another 750 souls. Meanwhile, the remaining wolf had chased after the girls. They had to deal with it. Just as it was about to reach them. Zhao Lin unleashed her power and struck it square in the belly. Zhou Chen arrived in an instant and split it in two. With that, he gained 2,260 souls and leveled up rapidly, going from rank E level 6 to rank D level 1 with 260 souls left over. A purple pillar appeared before everyone, shocking them. He had unlocked a new potential, Abyss, and could now summon an Abyss domain. He used the skill, piercing the monster from multiple directions. The ability was called Touch of Death, and he took the opportunity to cut off the monster's head with ease. He had gained 5,000 souls. As expected from a king-level monster, it was all thanks to the piercing power, otherwise it would have taken much longer. The system announced that the wish mission had been completed, and he obtained the Rockwolf King's crystal. It added that the crystal was a rare material, a crystallized form of the king's power. The girls rushed over, worried about him. He had defeated a king alone. They asked if it was really dead, and whether there might be a second phase, but the instructor said the fissure's energy fluctuations had stabilized. It seemed he had truly killed the monster. He had passed the test. The two girls were overjoyed. After so long, they had finally passed. They thanked Zhou Chen, since it was all thanks to him. Su Hen said she would report the results to the others. She added that the two girls had also done well, and each earned +5 credits. They tried to refuse, saying Zhu Hen had done everything, but Su Hen denied it, saying they had helped a lot, and more importantly, knew their limits. Then she turned to Zhou Chen. His performance was the best she had ever seen from any freshman. He would receive the full 10 base points plus Li Rui's 5, totaling 15. The two girls were stunned. It was the first time they had ever seen something like that. Zhou Chen thanked her, but she waved it off. If not for the mission's limits, he would have received even more. Li Rui demanded to know why his credits were given away. She replied that it was because he wouldn't need them anymore. As captain, he had abandoned the formation mid-battle and left his teammates in danger. Not to mention, he had drawn his sword against a fellow member. He had lost his eligibility for admission. He argued that he had only done it to finish things quickly, and that he would appeal for a retrial. She didn't care. If they reviewed his behavior, he might receive even harsher punishment. He was left in shock. In any case, she said they would return now. Elsewhere, Su Hen informed them that their rewards would be transferred within 24 hours, and everyone thanked her. The two girls asked for Zhou Chen's number in case they needed to run missions together again. Su Shen asked if he still wasn't in a guild, and what he thought about joining hers. He asked whether that didn't require at least rank C. She replied that only the big guilds had such demands. Theirs was mid-tier. They could even offer him 3 million. He thought it was a generous offer, but said he didn't plan to join a guild yet. Su Hen figured that made sense. Maybe he was aiming for the Shenhua guild. What a pity. Just then, Lin En appeared and asked what they were talking about. The instructor brushed it off, saying she was just congratulating Zhou Chen. He asked if Lin En had been waiting for him. She said she hadn't expected him to finish so early and would show him the way to his dorm. She introduced the room and said that after he earned more credits, he could request a better one. He asked directly, now that he had passed, why had she recruited him? The other girl asked if she was sure she wanted to tell him, but Lin En said it was fine. He had passed. She explained that she was officially the guild's heir, only because her father had been the previous leader. Internally, however, the guild had already split into 3 factions due to the succession, and she needed her own team. In other words, she needed his help. But why him? She said she had watched his previous fights, and his obsession with power was what she valued. There was another reason too, his massive debt. He was shocked. She explained that his debt was managed by an agency in Light City, and behind it stood an even larger loan organization tied to the central authorities. They used their influence to steal and alter people's information, especially pawns like him. Even if he paid everything off, they would keep harassing him. Coincidentally, her rival was the head of that company. She asked Zhu Chen to join her, and she would protect him from them. Once she defeated them, she would erase all records involving him. Zhu Chen thought having a guild support would be safe, not to mention the privileges. There was no reason to refuse. He quickly asked what he should do. She told him to follow her pace for now. She transferred 5 million to him, saying the minimum signing level for the guild was rank C, and he could consider this a token of sincerity. They were looking forward to it. After they left, he lay down on the bed, finally happy to rest. He decided to check his status, since he had saved up 5,000 souls. He noticed a new attribute related to potential, and it cost twice as many souls as the others. He reflected that leveling up now was very expensive, and not worth it. Instead, he increased his potential by 5 points, strengthening all his other abilities. He used his storage skill. All his items were kept there, and could be retrieved freely. But he noticed he no longer had key items, so he set that aside. He was more excited about the exchange shop. He even wondered if he could buy weapons. Judging from today's battle, they could be crucial. He bought a greatsword, and was impressed by its quality. Now he only had 2,160 souls left, and he would save the rest just in case. Then Goldfinger appeared, asking about the presence he had felt. Zhou Chen said he had awakened the Abyss potential, and explained the ability. He hadn't expected Zhou Chen to master the Abyss so soon. He asked if Zhou Chen had figured out how to level up. Zhou Chen said yes. The book became excited. Now he could enter fissures and make its job much easier. Meanwhile, at the evaluation department, the demon asked what he was doing there. Zhou Chen explained that he wanted to obtain his certificate, since it would be easier to enter fissures if he had one. A woman called him over and said she had checked his file, asking if he was a new student. He confirmed. She told him she would explain the ranking system. The device measured the rarity of one's potential, shown by color, from lowest to highest: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and legendary. The higher the color, the stronger the potential, and the greater the room for growth. She told him not to be discouraged if he received a low rating, since he might obtain a second awakening in the future. She asked for his card, and told him to place his hand on the device. As soon as he did, the secretary found it strange that the colors were fluctuating. Then it turned completely purple, with a demonic face above it. Everyone could see it. The energy waves were extremely intense. The energy kept rising, and they were even more shocked. The secretary said it was the first time she had seen such strong fluctuations. There was no purple classification in the records, and the potential was called apostle. Perhaps it was some kind of profession. She explained that for newly awakened people, the first awakening was usually incomplete. The names of abilities were often things like flame or storm. Only after the second awakening would a professional title appear, like warrior or mage. However, Zhou Chen already had a professional name. How was that possible? At that moment, a man came over and asked what was going on. The woman said it was this boy's test, that his potential was purple and the name was apostle. The man asked to see the panel. After checking, he confirmed it. Moreover, the device wasn't even from this world, so a wrong reading was impossible. Yes, this was a new classification, purple. He reported everything through an earpiece, and the woman said the card recording was complete. He walked up to Zhou Chen and said that his color had never appeared in history. Unfortunately, they still couldn't determine its exact rank. As a temporary measure, he would be listed as a unique classification. As for the apostle profession, it would require deeper study, and they would reassess later after gathering more data. Zhou Chen wondered if this was because of the fragment of creation authority. The others were surprised, but perhaps a new classification didn't necessarily mean he was strong. Still, he found it impressive, but to him wasn't an apostle just a boss's servant. Soon after, at the mission hall, Zhang appeared and said he looked a bit lost. Zhang needed someone for a mission and asked what Zhou Chen thought. It was mining work, completely safe. Even though the pay was lower, it was secure. Zhou Chen saw no reason to refuse and accepted. Zhang said he just needed to agree through the recruitment post. Everyone formed teams that way. It was convenient. Zhou Chen asked if there wasn't a recruitment supervisor. Zhang said it was like a trial phase, and since it wasn't dangerous, there was no need to spend extra on supervision. Scene change to the crystal mine. Everyone was amazed by how brightly the place shone. Goldfinger sensed something strange coming from the area. He assigned a mission: collect 150 crystal ores within 1 hour. The demon said the crystals were rich in energy and could be absorbed to recover strength. Zhang handed Zhou Chen one of his tools, saying he could use it for now. They all began mining. Zhang hadn't expected him to be so strong and got excited, saying offensive types were really cool and had an easy time finding teams. He himself had vision enhancement, which he felt was useless. Goldfinger told him to stop chatting and keep working. Then the system announced that the crystals could not be stored. Zhou Chen wondered if it was because they didn't belong to him yet. Zhang asked why he was staring at the crystals. Was he thinking of stealing? Everything here belonged to the school, and he would be punished if he took anything. Zhou Chen finally understood why he couldn't store them. He asked how he was supposed to find so many in such a short time. Goldfinger said that wasn't his problem. Suddenly, everyone felt a huge tremor in the cave. It was a worm king. They were confused, since they had been told it was safe. Zhang explained that they built their nests near crystal veins. They must have angered it. He told everyone to forget everything and retreat. Just as the worm was about to grab one of them, Zhou Chen pushed Zhang away and was struck instead. Goldfinger said he had been careless. Zhou Chen explained that creatures like this nested near mineral veins, so the lair might contain a large stockpile. If it was something the school didn't know about, he could take it. He jumped off the monster and noticed many crystals, but he still had many guests to deal with. There were several worms like the previous one. Zhou Chen said it was the perfect chance to test Touch of Death. He pierced many worms at once, extremely fast, earning souls again and again. He commented that the only drawback of Touch of Death was that he couldn't use it for long. Battle skills didn't have cooldowns, but each cast consumed mental energy. He seemed to be at his limit, but the Worm King still remained. He summoned his sword and sliced the monster into pieces, gaining 7,000 souls. Goldfinger praised him and gave him a passing score, saying he still had a long way to go and should hurry up and work. Soon after, he was mining again, but with the help of tentacles, directing each one on what to do. This time, he had obtained 13,000 souls, adding the remaining 2,000. That made 15,000. He drank an energy potion. After increasing agility and potential, he had acquired a battle skill, and now wanted to improve his attributes. But level and constitution cost too many souls, so he only raised each by 1 level. He gained no special reward, and felt that compared to that, increasing strength and mental power had much more obvious benefits. He activated calm breathing. As long as he avoided intense movement, it counted as rest. Combined with the area effect of Touch of Death, he could stand still and use the skill without cost. He wondered what the senses attribute did. Some were easy to understand since they were combat related, but he didn't know about the others. He used his soul on the Eye of Authority and noticed that senses were related to information. Being able to obtain enemy data was extremely useful. He noticed a glow in a rock and told a tentacle to check it. Goldfinger wondered what it was, since he couldn't absorb it. It was a mutant crystal, capable of releasing energy when activated, a material for upgrading demonic armor. Goldfinger said the forging materials for the demonic armor should have been lost, and didn't understand how this one existed, but he put it aside since the fissure was about to close. As the fissure began closing, everyone feared Zhou Chen Chen had died inside. The masked man asked why a rescue team hadn't been organized yet. The answer was that the Worm King's nest was extremely complicated, and without knowledge of the terrain, it was easy to get lost. Zhang blamed himself for bringing Zhou in, but then everyone was shocked. Zhao Chen came back without a single scratch, and without any equipment. They asked how he was so fine. He said it was just luck, explaining that he struggled out of the worm's mouth and crawled his way back based on a memory he had. He sighed, saying it was a pity he couldn't take the school's crystals. Zhang said it didn't matter anymore, and that he would treat him to dinner. In another scene, at the hospital, a girl asked about her mother, who had disappeared. The nurse said she had been transferred to the ICU. Wasn't that for critical patients? She explained that the director of Lixian Academy had paid for 6 months of treatment, since he was helping the boy who couldn't come personally. The girl wondered who it could be. Could it be Zhu Chen? Back to him, he upgraded his demonic armor. Today had been extremely productive. He still had some crystals and enhancement materials. If he kept doing missions, he would eventually learn what they were for. After spending the 5 million from the senior, the director had used it to take care of his mother, and the remaining 2 million paid off the smaller debt. For now, he could breathe. Once he could take on higher level missions, paying off the rest would only be a matter of time. He needed to become stronger, strong enough to protect himself and the people around him. He needed more fissures, preferably alone. He checked the website, but they were all taken by experienced players. Competing with 3 teammates for kills wasn't worth it. Missions also couldn't be done solo. He needed a rookie team, so he had the idea of creating one himself, giving priority to those without combat abilities, and adding several other conditions. Goldfinger asked if anyone would even accept such terms, but Zhou Chen didn't expect much anyway. He decided to rest first, and went to sleep. The next morning, he heard many knocks on the door. When he opened it, wondering what was happening, there were many people outside, all of them support types. Zhu Chen asked what they were doing in his apartment, and Li Wei said he was the one who had made the post saying he needed support. Everyone had messaged him, but since he didn't reply, they all came over. Zhu Chen then realized his phone had been on, and he had forgotten about it. He had assumed the conditions were so bad that no one would accept. Li Wei explained that low-level supports were limited, so everyone preferred to find someone who could deal damage, and supports were having a hard time finding teams. People were whispering behind Zhou Chen's back that he didn't inspire any confidence, and wondered if this might be some kind of scam, but Li Wei told them to relax, since Zhou had been part of his group before. A girl asked if it was really true that they could level up without effort. Zhou Chen said yes, as long as they didn't interfere with his actions. Everyone cheered and began arguing over who would start. Even Li Wei hadn't expected such a reaction. He had only wanted to show off that he knew Zhou. He asked which task Zhou would do first, and Zhou replied that he would do them all. Meanwhile, in the Hinsheng group, a man was being beaten, and the one hitting him said it was all his fault. If his performance was like that again next month, he would replace all of them, and the debt they owed would be collected directly from their bodies. As he left the building, one of the men asked what had happened to his face. He said it was nothing. The guard said that with their current performance, they couldn't keep up with the other teams, and maybe they should expand the business like the others did. The man refused, asking if he wasn't afraid his children would be born missing parts. The guard replied that if they didn't do it, they would come down hard on him. The man said he would first see if he could get some money. He was surprised that Zhou Chen had paid 2 million in one go, and had even enrolled in that expensive academy. He wondered how Zhou had managed all that, and smiled, saying he hadn't expected him to be such a big fish. Cut to the rifts. Zhou Chen killed a tree monster, gaining 12,000 souls, then some sea monsters, gaining 10,100 souls, and then some stone monsters, gaining 5,000. Soon after, Zhou said that thanks to them he had obtained many souls, and would improve his attributes. He asked the system to distribute the rest randomly, but to prioritize potential. After upgrading, he gained a new skill called Source of Fear, which allowed him to create an abyss inside the enemy's minds and cause fear. He saw some people struggling against monsters. They were scorpions, and the group was surrounded. Zhou Chen used his new ability, imposing fear on the monsters. He was surprised that the Eye of Authority could sense subtle emotional states, and he tested his new combat skill, Source of Fear, causing all the scorpions to die almost instantly. He thought that as long as the enemy felt fear, he could completely control them and use the abyss within them to summon explosive tentacles. However, the skill only gave him a few souls. Even if they weren't strong, something still felt wrong. Li Wei said they had finished harvesting and could leave now. All the missions were completed, and everyone thanked Zhou. Changing scenes again, Zhou wondered why he had gained fewer souls. Maybe it was the system's punishment mechanism to prevent him from leveling up too fast. He needed higher level dungeons. He thought about asking Lin En, but that might expose his leveling ability and make him an easy target. Then he received a message from someone talking about an easy mission for him, offering 100,000 gold. Zhou said he didn't do bodyguard work. The person kept insisting, even raising it to 300,000 gold, but Zhou still refused. He wondered if it was a joke, but the man said there was a rift, and he only wanted Zhou's protection, which caught his attention. He decided to go. Goldfinger asked why they were there, and Zhou said he had arranged to meet someone and needed to confirm something. He saw the guy and asked if it was really him. A man with glasses appeared, saying yes, he was the one Zhou was looking for, and he let the boy leave. Zhu Chen was shocked at having been tricked like that. The man said he had heard Zhu paid 2 million at once, and asked if he was living well now. As long as Zhu honestly told him how he got the money, he would guarantee he left safely. Zhou realized there was no rift here, only this man. The guy with glasses asked if he had had said Zhou could leave, then activated his aura, a pressure-type combat skill. He said his name was Lin Yu. Zhou Chen said he hadn't heard that name in a long time and asked if he was the one responsible for the interest. Zhao said he had already paid and was up to date, so why was he looking for him? Lin Yu replied that it was because he had money. Zhao asked if even after paying he still wouldn't have peace. They really weren't trustworthy. Lin Yu asked if he still dared to talk back like that. He was just like that kid earlier, always thinking he was the best just because he had entered an academy. Lin Yu said he needed to punch him a few times so he would behave. Before he could do anything, Lin Yu took a punch from Zhou and started bleeding heavily. Lin Yu wondered what had happened, and when Zhou had attacked, he thought Zhou was only rank D. It should have been impossible for him to keep up with Zhou's movements. Not to mention, he had been hit by his stellar energy pressure. He should be weak. He said it must have been a coincidence, and that he was really angry now. He activated his heavy pressure fist, but before he could act, he took several direct blows and Zoe smashed his face into the ground. Lin Yu thought this guy definitely wasn't rank D. Zhu told him to get up immediately. Lin Yu surrendered, saying he didn't want to die. Goldfinger asked if this was the loan shark he owed, and whether they should kill or torture him. Zhu said he still had things to ask and didn't want to kill him yet. This shocked Lin Yu. Was Zhou really thinking about killing him? He said it was all a misunderstanding, and they could talk it out. Zhou then used the Eye of Authority, throwing Lin Yu into an illusion and filling him with fear. Zhu said they would talk first, and he would know if Lin Yu lied. Lin Yu said he was wrong and would tell him everything. Zhu asked why he was looking for him, and whether he had been harassing his family. Lin Yu said he hadn't intended to take any money. It was just a joke. Zhu sighed and said there was no need to talk, but Lin Yu asked him to wait. He said he was desperate for money. Seeing Zhu repay 2 million at once, he just wanted to ask where he got it and ask about his family. He hadn't meant to threaten them. Zhu said 3 men had broken into his house before, caused trouble, and clearly claimed to be his subordinates. Did he think Zhu would believe him? Lin Yu said those guys broke the rules to make money by collecting debts, and he had fired them when he found out. Zhao noticed the Eye of Authority didn't react, so it must be true. So said he had checked. His 5 million loan had risen to 100 million. Was he behind it? Lin Yu said no. The debts were managed by the Hensheng Group. Their style was to use high interest rates to force loan clients to work for them for life. He himself owed so much money he couldn't repay it, which was why he worked for them. Zhou thought he might have been able to rely on this guy to repay the debt, but it seemed Lin En had been right. Zhu said that since he was a manager, he must have done many bad things. Lin Yu quickly denied it, saying he was different from those quota-driven guys. Other than collecting debts, he didn't do anything against nature or reason. If he had to name the most immoral thing he'd done, it would be capturing an E-class demonic beast and selling it to the Blackwater district. Zhu was surprised and wondered if it might have been the one from the fighting arena. Zhu asked if he knew where the Wild Rift was. Lin Yu said he had one on hand and had been preparing to use it. Soon they arrived at the rift. Zhou said it really was a rift. Judging by the energy fluctuations, it was Class C, but rifts should be controlled by the school and the central government. How did he have it? Lin Yu explained he had connections in the administration. They informed him of rift locations before reporting them, allowing him to arrive first. If he was lucky enough to find crystals or ore, he would sell them on the black market. Zhu asked if he had tools to open the rift. He said yes. He had bought one on the black market. Zhu asked him to open it so he could take a look. After entering, Zhou received a system mission to subdue all the monsters in the rift. He was happy. Finally, a mission had appeared. Lin Yu said that if Zhou wanted profit, it was pointless. He had already passed through and there was nothing. They should leave. But Zhou said he didn't want profit. He wanted to clear the rift. Lin Yu was shocked, asking if he was crazy. A Class C rift required at least 1 S-class or 14 D-class fighters to conquer. Zhou was surprised he knew that. Lin Yu explained that before he became a debt collector, he had been a member of a conquest team. It was common knowledge. Lin Yu said this was no joke, and he was leaving right now. But Zhou had already taken his crystal, saying just in case he would keep it. It would be troublesome if they couldn't get out. He added that Lin Yu had gotten one thing wrong. It wasn't them conquering the rift. It was only him, and Lin Yu was not allowed to interfere. Looking up, Zhou saw many monkey monsters, cave demon apes, naturally cruel creatures that lived in groups. They all charged towards Zhou Chen, and Lin Yu thought he was about to be devoured. But Zhou only thought how incredibly lucky he was. He used his ability and pierced several of them at once with tentacles, which made the others furious and rush at him even more fiercely. Lin Yu was shocked that Zhou had killed those Class C monsters so easily, and wondered if this was how he made his money. Shortly after, Zhou Chen was simply slaughtering the monkeys without even moving a hand, using only his tentacles. Lin Yu wondered if this was truly the strength of a D rank, and he even felt a little sorry for the poor monkeys. Zhou Chen commented that, as expected from a C rank rift, the number of points he gained was absurd. Suddenly, a white monkey rushed toward him and leapt to attack. Zhou Chen used Death Touch on the monster, but it caused no damage at all. He wondered if the tentacles really couldn't pierce through. The monkey attacked with everything it had, but Zhou dodged and told Lin Yu to find a place to hide. The two of them stared at each other for a while. Zhou Chen and the boss. He used Eye of Authority on the monster. It was the Demon Monkey Chief, C-class, a beast that had become king through cruel battles, and its ability was Rage. Soon it entered a berserk state, becoming frenzied and less sensitive to pain. Zhou Chen wondered if killing its subordinates had made it like this, then told it not to worry, since it would be meeting them soon. The monster attacked fiercely, but Zhou dodged and advanced toward it. Using divine speed, he made numerous extremely fast cuts on the monster. Lin Yu was amazed by his movements, and also questioned the tentacles. He reflected that sealing a rift alone was already surprising, but he hadn't expected Zhou to fight it on equal footing. He bet no one would believe him if he told them. Soon after, the system informed him that the target's berserk state had disappeared, and that it had generated fear. Zhou used his fear source power on the monkey, causing many tentacles to burst out from the monster's stomach all at once, and he gained 32,000 souls. Zhu Chen said that it was expected from a C-rank boss. Its skin was tough. Fortunately, it had become afraid at the end. Otherwise, it would have taken longer. The system then granted a reward, a pure demon crystal. Zhu still didn't understand what the crystals were for, and the system asked if he wanted to use the 3 crystals to upgrade an accessory. These crystals were used to synthesize items. He chose the upgrade, and after combining them, he obtained Lucky Hunter, which increases the drop rate of rare materials from demonic beasts. At that moment, Lin Yu showed up and asked if he had really killed a king. Zhou asked whether those kinds of monsters had anything valuable. Lin Yu said yes. C-rank monsters were very scarce on the black market. Even though some corpses had been damaged, they were still usable. He asked to take the Monkey King with him, and Zhou agreed. 2 hours later, at the dock warehouse, someone announced that Lin Yu had arrived. The black-haired man said it was rare for him to be late, but Lin Yu replied that he had been a bit anxious. The other man asked who Zhou was, and whether Lin Yu was entering a new line of business. He approached, saying the young man was handsome, with delicate skin and tender flesh, a high-quality product. He said he knew some buyers who were thirsty for this type, and asked if he wanted an introduction. Lin Yu grabbed the man's arm and said they were there to discuss payment and weren't interested in anything else. The man wondered what was wrong with him, since he was being overly protective of the boy. He apologized, saying he was joking, and they returned to business. In another room, the man asked what he was selling after all. Lin Yu said it was good stuff this time. He opened the box and told him to see for himself. The man became ecstatic, asking if it was really demon monkey hide, even elemental star crystals. He asked if that was the chief's horn, and where Lin Yu had gotten so many top-tier goods. Lin Yu told him not to ask about the origin, just inspect the merchandise and give a price. The man said C-rank materials were rare and would take time to distribute. What about 1.5 million? Zhou Chen wondered if monster materials were really worth that much. No wonder the school and the government controlled them so strictly. But Lin Yu said it had been so long since he handled a C-rank treasure that he was getting confused. C-rank materials were certainly worth more. The man admitted he was right and raised it to 2.2 million, already very high. Still, Lin Yu wanted 2.5 million. He told him to think carefully. Materials like these were worth far more, and if people found out he had a source of C-rank or higher, big clients would fight to do business with him. The man agreed, saying he would do it as a favor to an old client, and if he got more like this in the future, he should bring them. They shook hands, deal closed. Soon after, on the streets, Zhou Chen said the money had already been transferred. Very efficient. Luck really was on his side. Lin Yu, worried, asked if he needed anything else, but one of his subordinates arrived, saying they had finally found him. Lin Yu asked what they were doing there. The guard said he hadn't sent any news for a long time, and his phone couldn't be reached, so they were worried. They heard he had scheduled a meeting with that guy and came. Then he noticed Zhou Chen and asked if he had already caught the brat. No wonder it took so long. He must have taught him a good lesson. He asked whether the boy had handed over the money. Before he could finish, Lin Yu slapped him across the face, telling him to shut up immediately and not to speak that way to big brother Zhou. Zhou, however, said it was fine and that he would share 1 million with Lin Yu, considering it payment for their cooperation. Lin Yu asked if he didn't need the money, but Zhou refused, saying he hadn't done anything and shouldn't keep it all. Lin Yu asked if he needed a ride, but Zhou refused again and left. Goldfinger asked why he let the man go. He could have kept him as a slave. Zhou replied that one should always leave the door open. Maybe they would meet again on good terms. The guard asked what exactly had happened, and Lin Yu said it was a long story. He told them to search for information about wild rifts with everything they had, no matter how high the reward, adding that this was their only chance to buy their freedom. A few days later, on the commercial street of Dawnbreaker Academy, Zhou Chen said it was his first time there, and he hadn't expected it to be so lively. Since he had some money, he would take a look around. He stopped at a shop selling skill stones. They were expensive. Even a mediocre offensive C-rank combat skill cost more than 500,000. From that angle, his 1 million wouldn't last long, but he didn't really need offensive skills right now. He decided to take 2, terrain detection, which would keep him from getting lost, and gathering mastery, which grants knowledge related to collecting materials. Skills like these that help during rift clearing were very good. He also saw some rift armor, and really needed to change into one, since his clothes weren't suitable. As an agility type, heavy armor wouldn't work. Then a strange man appeared behind him, saying the young man had a good eye. It was his masterpiece. Light, durable, perfect for him. The man added that if Zeus improved his look, it would match even better. Zeus agreed and asked if there was a barber shop. Conveniently, the same man was a barber and stylist, and he said he would handle everything. Soon after, Zhou Chen said everything so far totaled 910,000 and thanked him for the help. As expected of 700,000 armor, it was really great to use. All the girls instantly looked at him, asking who the handsome guy was. Goldfinger asked if all he did was change clothes. Their attitude had shifted very quickly. Zhou Chen said that was just how things were. He said he had gotten something for him too, and asked him to put it on. While walking, he noticed Senior Lin En. She said she had almost not recognized him, and had been looking for him. Again, people whispered whispered about Lin En and the handsome guy beside her. Maybe they were dating or something. Embarrassed, Lin En said there were too many people there and they should find a quiet place to talk. While having a drink, she explained a few things. She was truly surprised that he had already reached D rank. It seemed his talent eye was very good. Zhou said it would take time to confirm his actual level. She felt ashamed for not knowing anything about his growth, but he said it was nothing, and he was getting used to campus life. Though he noticed she seemed very busy, she confirmed it, saying the guild had been facing many problems recently, and she really couldn't be absent. It was an extremely important battle for all the major guilds. The Golden Radiance Rift was about to appear. She explained that it was a rift that opened every 2 years, and it was filled with ancient ruins that sealed other powerful monsters. If someone conquered those ruins, they would receive incredible rewards. With enough luck, even a D-rank oracle might gain the power to rival an A-rank one. As long as the command structure was solid, a guild's combat power would certainly increase exponentially, possibly even raising a mid-tier guild into an important one. That was why every time it opened, all guilds fought for it with everything they had. She was no exception, since she was the heir of Shenhua. Zhu Chen asked if he could participate. She said she wanted him to, but the rift was a guild war, and his level was still too low. Moreover, it was a high-level zone, and the monsters there were B rank or higher. Zhu Chen said it didn't matter. He was sure he could protect himself, and he asked again if there was any other way. She replied that if he insisted, she could arrange something. Since clearing the ruins took a month, the logistics team would arrive a few days early to set up the equipment, and she said he could join the logistics group. Zhu Chen said he didn't mind. She then said it was settled. The rift would appear in 2 weeks, and she would take him to the meeting point. To celebrate his enrollment, she had prepared some gifts and asked someone to deliver them to his dormitory. A few hours later, Zhou Chen thought that he already had trouble dealing with C-rank monsters, let alone B-rank ones. He definitely needed to focus on leveling up. When he opened Linen's box, he saw many energy supplements inside. After doing some calculations, he said they must be worth more than 1 million, and he wondered if this was the power of a guild. Goldfinger thought it was bad, because he wouldn't be able to take them to level up. Zhou Chen agreed, saying he couldn't return them either, but he had an idea. 2 days later, during a D-level subjugation mission inside a rift, Zhou Chen was on a call with the blonde guy. The man asked where he got the supplements, and Zhou Chen said it would be a waste to let them sit unused. Meanwhile, he killed several monsters without much concern. Then the largest one approached, but it was easily pierced by tentacles, earning him 900 souls. All the support staff were shocked by how fast he cleared the dungeon. Zhou Chen thought that although he had done many missions in the past few days, he had only gained about 10,000 souls, including the wild rift that made around 50,000. He figured he should try that thing. The system showed that he had spent 50,000 souls on a rift fragment. Zhou said it was a new product that had appeared in the shop when he leveled up the oracle earlier. It cost 50,000 souls, and he had ignored it until now. 50,000 souls could help him level up a lot, but once spent it would be hard to get them back. Still, he had to use it. Then he crushed the fragment. A rift crack appeared in front of him, and he was surprised, since it was the first time he had seen something like that. When he touched it, he was quickly transported to what looked like a jungle. He said it definitely wasn't a normal rift. He wondered if it was some kind of labyrinth, but since it was his first time in such a vast environment, he didn't know what he might encounter, so he would be careful. They noticed 2 goblins carrying a basket of fruit. He thought those monsters were very weak, almost pathetic, but then he was nearly caught by one of them, not having realized their speed. One of them grabbed a stone and threw it, and he barely managed to dodge. Zhu Chen wondered how a goblin could possess such strength and speed. If he were hit, he would be dead. A mission appeared, telling him to survive until the 2nd day. Due to the difficulty, the Abyss skills Touch of Death and Abyss of Space were forbidden. The goblin charged again, and he barely dodged once more. He needed to find a chance to counterattack the 2 monsters. He decided to check the goblin's information, but nothing appeared. Only question marks. He wondered if it was because his level was too low. He kept dodging, unable to counterattack. Then he found an opening, and punched one of them in the stomach, or so he thought, because the goblin blocked the attack. The other one rushed him from behind, but he used his demonic armor and repelled it. He punched it hard in the mouth, sending it flying. He wondered if, even with their combined power, they hadn't died yet. He couldn't use Touch of Death, and relying only on combat skills and martial arts wasn't enough to finish them. He had never imagined that losing his potential would have such an impact. The goblin then began to scream loudly, its cry spreading through the forest. Goblins started appearing from everywhere. He hadn't expected it to bring friends. They all charged at him at the same time. He managed to pierce one with his sword, gaining 1,100 souls, and several others soon after. He thought that even if his potential was sealed, he still had his stats in the shop. He used the souls to raise his strength from 9 to 11. If his power was too low, he wouldn't be able to kill them quickly. He rushed at them, killing and increasing his strength, then agility, and later bonus agility, reaching 17. Even calm breathing went from 5 to 10. Zhou Chen realized that focusing only on potential had been wrong. In reality, every attribute mattered. He obtained a goblin skill, Claw Attack, which stated that if the group lost unity or fell into discord, morale would drop, and the target would feel fear. He thanked them for teaching him that, but now it was time for them to die. Shortly after, elsewhere, Lin En asked how the preparations for the rift were going. Her assistant said they expected to finish everything by tomorrow. She asked if they really had to participate. Lin En said they had no choice. Those people were probably planning to use this opportunity to decide the winner once and for all. If she didn't help in this rift, they would have an excuse to force her to give up her inheritance rights. Her secretary said she was right. 10 veteran members had requested to leave the guild, but after investigating, Dao Mingguo had recruited the 10 newcomers under his name. Linen said their abilities were not the real threat, but the other 3. She asked how those 3 were doing. The secretary said they were doing well, all impressive, and all had reached B rank, especially the girl who managed to clear a C-level dungeon by herself. With them by her side, Lin Hyun said maybe they wouldn't lose this battle. She hoped Zhou Chen would learn something from the rift. Her secretary said his level was too low, but Lin Hyun told her not to worry, since she would place him in the logistics team. Even if his level was low now, if he kept growing like this, he could become a powerful asset that couldn't be ignored. We returned to Zhou Chen, who had eliminated all the goblins. He felt relieved it was over. Goldfinger thought the aura of those goblins seemed a bit strange. The environment and the monsters looked like a rift, but the essence was different. Since the fragment had been bought in the shop, he suspected the place might somehow be connected to the authority of creation. When he tried to collect materials, he noticed he couldn't, and he wondered if it was because everything had been created by the system. But thanks to Lucky Hunter, he could collect crystals from some monsters. The effects after leveling up weren't as strong as king level ones, but it was still an improvement. He thought the place was even bigger than he had imagined, and it seemed he wouldn't finish the mission anytime soon. Since it was getting late, he would find somewhere to rest. But then an arrow flew toward him, and he barely managed to catch it. He wondered if he couldn't even take a moment to breathe. They were goblin mages and goblins with crossbows. Zhu Chen had not expected enemies equipped like that. He noticed there were goblin archers, warriors, and several mages. Their formation was complete. There were many of them, and most importantly, even after enhancing his divine sense, he still couldn't read their information. That meant their levels were high. He had thought he was already strong enough, but it seemed he still had a long way to go. The long-range goblins began their assault. Arrows and spells flew straight toward Zhou Chen, yet he managed to dodge, even though they tracked his movements. One strike nearly hit his head, and he barely blocked it. Only then did he realize it was a goblin assassin. He knocked the assassin away. A goblin warrior then rushed him with a sword. Zhou Chen barely defended in time, thinking that even if they had skills, their base attributes weren't that high, and he could handle them with his current strength. However, the goblin's power suddenly increased, pressing down on Zhou Chen's blade. He immediately understood it was a buff coming from the mage. His sword shattered, and the goblin assassin charged again. Zhu Chen figured that in terms of raw attributes he might not necessarily lose, but the mage's buffs were a huge problem. He needed to kill the mage. The monsters had too many ways to attack. Brute force alone wouldn't solve it. He would have to use different kinds of weapons to counter and suppress them. He spent 1,1200 souls on a dagger. He clashed with the goblin assassin, their blades colliding. Zhou Chen disarmed it, realizing that the goblin mage needed a staff to gather astral energy for those buffs. If he destroyed it, the buffs would stop. He killed the goblin assassin and thought again about how troublesome the buffs were. He gained 2,500 souls, but the goblin warrior attacked right between those moments. To deal with enemies using one-handed swords, Zhou Chen thought he needed a heavy blade. With it, he managed to kill the goblin warrior. Then the archers fired at him. However, he grabbed a shield in time and defended himself. He charged toward them. Seeing the projectiles were too close, he deflected them with his sword and bought a small warhammer. He killed all the goblin archers there, leaving only the mage, who seemed to be in shock. The mage tried to run in fear, but he was quickly pierced by the sword Zhou Chen hurled at him, earning him 7,000 souls. His victory, however, didn't last long. A new horde of goblins appeared, and he bought a stamina potion to try to deal with them. He figured he might not get any rest today, but that was fine with him. They were all coming straight to him anyway, which saved him the trouble of going out to find them.